Huh. Okay. Oh my god, I forgot that this horrible thing happens when I open UMINEKO, but I have another window open that's on top of it. And what happens is that my mouse gets horribly stuck in the middle of what is supposed to be the UMINEKO window, but it's actually whatever window is on top of it. So it's like stuck in the middle of the web browser. And I'm screaming, trying to blue sky post that I'm on Twitch and I'm suffering and I'm suffering. It's okay now because I had to kill the thing with the task manager anyway. Anyway, what's going on? What's going on with me? What's going on with you? I'm just straight up chilling. I missed last week. I forgot what happened, but yeah. I have some personal issues coming up, which means I will be offline on the November 25th and the December 2nd and the December 9th. Oh man. So my next Umineko Monday is gonna be the 16th, which is like 3 weeks away, which is crazy. Not my ideal situation. Hi Saturn is Cats. Not my ideal situation. I might fill in other streams with other stuff on the way, but for like a scheduled thing, yeah, it's gonna be December 16th after my horrid business on this earth is wrapped up. So that's that. What else? Gosh, maybe. Oh, that means I should try to finish this episode tonight. I think it's almost done, so let's just lock in. Let's see, there's that. After this, there's only. Wait, this is arc 4. Okay, so that's actually gonna be. Wow, now we really have to finish it tonight. Wait, it might not even be Umineko Monday in December. I don't know how soon I want to start the next arc or the answer arcs. Oh, it might be as soon as December. I feel like I got the ball rolling, so I just gotta get all the way through it. Recently I wrote that. Oh, I always forget I post all of these on YouTube. So there might actually be people who watch this on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. That is crazy. I never thought I would have like more than one person watch a video, which is now that definitely lacks courtesy towards people who are tuning in. So I can't say how much it moves my heart. But anyway, if you're watching this on YouTube and you're not following my other social media and stuff, I'm on almost exclusively on Blue Sky now. I recently shared some debrief writing that I did on some other writing that I did for the End Circle game, Marchenline or Marchenline, depending on how you choose to pronounce it. It's a space opera dating sim body horror far future thing that was made by a wonderful team of people in 1 month for a game jam. And it was my first time ever participating in something like that, and also my first time publishing a piece of writing to more than like 2 people. So even though it's heavily edited into its final form, yeah, I did contribute to that. And I also drew some stuff like uniform designs. But I was only like doing stuff in the concept art stage. Didn't put anything into the final thing. I'm a bit slow, but group projects are pretty cool. I'm glad you like it. I love all my children equally. Yeah. See, we got a testimonial. Hypothetical VOD watcher. I figure I have to take every opportunity. You know? There's no telling who could be. Plus, wait, if somebody I love all my children equally. Big Pookie Nissa. Yeah, this is a fan favorite for a reason. I'm sorry for giving her anxiety. I'm sorry, Aura, you're welcome. Okay, where did you leave off? I just started. Hi, Bug. I was talking about Martian Line. October, November. We were talking about Big Pookie Nissa. Hold the mic up to your face. And what do you have to say about Big Pookie on this beautiful evening? I'm trying to remember where we... Okay. Oh, this is right after a little help with the green gardening fairy. Of course. That's the way to do it. Oh, Maria just got finished torturing her mom and then killing Battler with her mind. And probably torturing everyone else with her mind, too. At that time, they could hear the sound of loud footsteps coming from the hall. It was already about 10:30 late at night. Late at night is usually a time when you aren't supposed to be disturbed. Hearing footsteps like that at this time was far from calming. Then, along with the clearly ominous knock that repeated fiercely, they could hear Goda and Kumasawa's voices. That clearly told them that this was an abnormal situation. Children! Are you there? Are you there? It's Goda! It's Kumasawa! Is everything okay? Ah, what has happened? What has happened? When George opened the door, the two of them tumbled in, sopping wet. The two sopping wet kittens at the door. It looked like they had dashed here from the mansion without an umbrella. What's wrong, you two? Did something happen? It was the master and Kraus-sama and everyone. What? Hello? Hello? Nice of Terry here. It was a pitch black room. There were no windows, and with the weak light bulb, one could just barely make out the state of things around them. My cat just jumped on my lap and got peanut butter on her butt. Kibby! Hi, Sadie. It appeared to be an old, forgotten underground storage room with some kind of dusty furniture haphazardly thrown into it. However, even with just a little light, one could at least make out that it probably wasn't a storage room. After all, that room was sealed off with iron bars. Where is this? I don't know. Could this be underneath the mansion? Has there always been a room like this directly underneath the dining hall? They had dropped into what appeared to be a pit, falling into this room. Therefore, it was natural to assume that this room was directly under the dining hall. However, not even Kraus could bring himself to believe that there were pitfalls rigged in his beloved dining hall, where he had enjoyed his meals for years, and that this dungeon-like room lay directly beneath it. But the ceiling above was of crude stone craftsmanship, and they couldn't understand how they could have fallen from somewhere up there. No, all 5 people who had been dropped here thought the same thing. Although they'd had the sensation of falling into a pit, there was no way there could be pitfalls in the dining hall, nor could this dungeon-like place be directly under it. But the truth was that they actually had fallen into this place and they were locked in. So they were confused. It is lucky that no one was hurt after falling from such a height. Shannon, Cannon, did either of you two know about this room? No, we did not know of this room either. Really? Really? We really don't know about a room like this. Despite their age, Kiri apparently wouldn't have found it odd if they, as servants allowed to wear the one-winged eagle, might know of the mansion's secret tricks. There was a long silence as if Kraus was evaluating their answer. No, it's probably true that you don't know. After all, this is the clean freak Shannon we're talking about. If she knew about this room, she'd probably scrub this place until it was sparkling. The filth of this room is proof that you two don't know of it. More importantly, I think we should worry about what to do next. Exactly. We need to call the police, or rather, administer first aid as soon as possible. Nanjo's words were hollow. Obviously, 6 people had been killed in the dining hall. Everybody had seen the exact moment when they'd been killed, and since half of their heads had been destroyed, anyone could tell that their deaths had been instant with just a single glance. Everyone understood that first aid no longer held any meaning. Thank you, Dr. Nanjo. We already understand that our partners are no longer alive. Thanks for trying to console us by mentioning first aid. Natsuhi. Once again, a gloomy silence dominated the atmosphere, but Kraus shook his head harshly over and over and, for the time being, decided to forget the pain of losing his wife and to dedicate himself to figuring out where they were. Everyone, listen to me. Father is hopeless now. We've passed the point of searching for a reason or an explanation that can be expressed in words. Nobody answered. Without any kind of discussion or mercy, 6 people had been killed in an instant. And Kinzo had even been so bold as to proclaim that we'd become sacrifices for a ceremony involving 13 murders. Since we'd been locked up in this place, we too will probably become the ceremony's next sacrifices soon. Around this time, our eyes became used to the darkness, and bit by bit, we were able to understand more about the dungeon's interior. What we thought was furniture haphazardly left in the dungeon turned out not to be furniture at all. They were things like small cages to lock people in, restraints, or else torture racks. At any rate, it was obvious that it was eerier than a mere jail cell. Since the objects were rusted together and coated in thick dust, there was no doubt that they had been forgotten. Maybe you could even call these things Kinzo's sealed and forgotten madness. However, we had been locked away in this room. Those objects weren't exactly comforting to people who were locked up, hoping to be released without harm. At any rate, let's get out of here. We've lost loved ones and friends and would like to spend some time shedding tears, but more than that, I'm worried about the children. I wonder if the children are safe. All we can do is pray. Come to think of it, Kumasawa and Goda aren't here. Perhaps they were able to get away safely. You never know. It would be a relief if they were able to meet up with the children. When the going gets tough, Goda-san is reliable and Kumasawa-san is knowledgeable and calm. I'm sure they'll be able to help the children. Yes, that certainly would be comforting. Shannon and Kraus smiled bitterly a little, but they quickly realized how improper that was and stopped, clearing their throats. We can't be optimistic, Ne-san. There's a chance that they've already been attacked after we were. I agree. What Father carried out in the dining hall was the 6 murders of the first Twilight from the Witch's Epitaph, right? Then the second Twilight is to tear apart the 2 who are close. We can't deny the possibility that Goda-san and Kumasawa-san may have been killed after escaping together. We can't cling to the optimistic idea that they must have gotten to the guest house and are protecting the children. Kyrie coldly analyzed the worst-case scenario. For her, it was heartbreaking to have lost her beloved husband, but right now the most important thing was protecting that husband's son, along with the other children, from becoming the insane family head's sacrifices. She overcame her sadness with the parental urge to protect children from sorrow. It seemed that both Kyrie and Kraus were strong enough to forget about their grief, if only for the time being. They would let their tears flow later. In order to protect the children, they had to act. Anyway, let's get out of here. It seems to be a rather old cell. Couldn't we break the bars with something? Let's try searching the entire room for some way to escape. I wonder if there are any torture tools lying around all these torture cages. They might be useful as weapons or to break the bars. Kyrie pulled a lighter from her pocket. She herself didn't smoke, but she kept one tucked away in her pocket to light Rudolph's cigarettes. It was an extremely valuable source of light for searching in this dim dungeon. Shannon, help Kiryu-san search the room. Cannon, you'll help me check out the bars. This is a very old cell. The bars could be loose. What should I help with? Please just keep up your strength. Father will probably come soon. You're the only one whose words will reach him. In a way, you might be holding our lives in your hands. My words will no longer reach him, I think. I'm sorry, but I don't believe I will be of any use. Then lend us your expertise as a doctor. I wonder if there exists a drug that can make people instantly faint. A drug that makes people instantly faint? What are you talking about? We believe we fell through a pit and landed in this dungeon. In that panic-stricken moment, that's what we believe happened. But I measured the breadth of this room and came to a realization. This dungeon can't be underneath the dining hall. Why do you say that? You're an idiot, Ne-san. Compared to the dining hall, this dungeon is too cramped. Exactly. The first person to fall was Kraus-ni-san. The second was myself. When you fell into this room, did you move from that spot, Kraus-ni-san? It's embarrassing to say, but the landing hurt, and I lay there groaning in pain. Immediately after that, Kiryu-san came crashing down next to me. The distance between where we were standing and the places where we landed is clearly off. Certainly, when you put it that way. I was the next to fall, so I remember fairly well where you two were standing. The distance between you two and the dining hall might have been greater than this entire room. We fell into a pit and directly dropped down here. It's not like we fell into multiple interlocking pipes and we're all collected here. The fall was instant, wasn't it? I don't remember rolling around in some sort of elaborate water pipe system. True, we can't explain it with a pitfall. What a strange tale. What does that have to do with a drug that makes people instantly faint like Kiryu-sama was talking about? Kiryu-sama was probably thinking that there were no pitfalls in the dining hall, correct? But in reality, we did fall. More accurately, we felt as though we fell into pits. That was only natural. After all, we experienced something that couldn't be described any other way. I see. In other words, this is what you want to say. We did not fall into pits. We were attacked with something like a blow dart, for example, and lost consciousness instantly. It could be that we just remember the instant we fell onto the floor as though it were falling through a pit. I see. That's a much more persuasive argument than there being numerous pitfall traps in the dining hall that we've never noticed, even after decades eating there. Ne-san, do you have a watch? Huh? Yes. I have a pocket watch. It's about 2240. Yes. My watch says the same. In short, it's only been a bit more than 10 minutes since that uproar in the dining hall at most. My watch has the same time. That's much too short a time to knock us out and carry us somewhere. Judging only from the time, it's reasonable to assume that we did fall through a hole leading directly underneath the dining hall. They could have tampered with the watch hands as much as they wanted. While we were passed out, they may have wound everyone's watches back. We're incapable of proving that this possibility doesn't exist. Whether it was a pitfall or a drug that induces fainting, it does not change the fact that we need to be on guard. Well then, Dr. Nanjo, is there a drug that can do that? Well, it's the same as your reasoning, Kiryu-san. I cannot prove that there isn't a drug with that effect that I don't know about. As they say, you can never be too careful. Sorry, it was a useless question. I just thought that with my hypothesis, I could suggest that this dungeon might necessarily be directly underneath the dining hall. I see. There's always the possibility that we were carried off to the hidden mansion they say Father built in the middle of the forest. If we can escape from here and get outside, then we'll know. We'll save worrying about that for after we get out. Exactly. I'm truly sorry. I've only been asking about it and prying into useless things. No, it's quite promising. If you notice anything else, please tell us. It might become a hint to escaping from here. Rudolph was always talking about you. He said he was always surprised by your ideas and they would sometimes give him valuable hints. The fact that you're here is a blessing within a tragedy. Thank you. I heard something from Rudolph's son as well. He said that you actually just swagger about. But when things get serious, you overflow with a sense of responsibility and you can be a very dependent older brother. That's too kind. Damn it. At any rate, these iron bars won't even budge. How are things on your end, Kenan? No, the side is no better. Kraus and Kenan tried wiggling the bars in various ways. There were a few bars that could be twisted, and a few had enough space to rattle a bit around in, but they couldn't be broken with human strength alone. However, there was still hope that if they could use some kind of lever-like tool, it was still far too early to give up yet. The children's lives were hanging in the balance. Even if there was no hope, they couldn't stop their struggle. And it was better for them to act this way. If they were to stop, there's no doubt they'd once again be overcome by the grief of losing their beloved ones and curl up, clutching their knees. How are you doing, Kirei-san? Find anything? I found some small stones that we could hold onto and hide. Something like this could probably be used as a weapon. That would probably be impossible to whittle down those iron bars with them. How about you, Shannon-chan? No, nothing. This is a phone. I doubt it's connected, but we might be able to use the cord as some sort of string-based weapon. If we break it, we could take out the metal parts. Kraus-Nissan, there's a keyhole for opening the bars, right? Yes. It's a pretty large hole, quite old-fashioned. If we twist some wire into it, we might just be able to pick it. We might be able to use the metal parts of the phone as a substitute for something. This phone will become our weapon. It's just like investing. Our weapon is information. Kraus and Kirei laughed together as though they hadn't even thought of using the phone as a means of communication. What are you doing, Nei-san? I just wondered if maybe the phone was working. You dummy, Nei-san. Huh? What? At that point, Shannon let out a small, surprised cry. Kirei-sama, this phone is connected. What did you say? It was like when people move out of an office, taking everything with them, leaving only the telephone behind. That's the feeling the phone gave off, having been left in the corner of the cell. The cord was wound into a coil, the tip of it being swallowed by the wall, and just looking at it, there was no reason to assume that it wasn't hooked up. But to think that it actually was. Kirei took the receiver from Shannon and pressed it to her ear. Certainly the electric hum of a phone was a familiar sound. And this phone was certainly live. What good luck? Let's contact the police. Hold on. This is too good to be true. Could it be bugged? If they were planning a trick like that, normally they would cut the telephone line. There's actually a good possibility that they overlooked this. If they noticed, they might actually cut the line this time. There's nothing we could tell the police that would be problematic for us if they overheard. Surely that was true. The point of a wiretap is to overhear some important piece of information, but the way things were right now, she couldn't think of a single thing that would come up in a conversation to the outside world that might be troublesome to have overheard. Kirei instantly concluded that it was more likely to be a mistake on Kinzo's part than a trap. You do have a point. I believe you start with 0 to make calls through the external line. Kanon-kun, I'm going to make a phone call. So will you watch how things are out there for me? If you send somebody coming, let me know. Yes. Kanon raced off towards the iron bars, silenced his breathing and strained his ears. As everyone present watched her, Kirei dialed 110. However, she pushed the hook down and redialed many times. It didn't seem to be working very well. The outside line begins with 0? 110 would be 0110 then, right? It doesn't seem to want to go through. Hand it over here, I'll try to call. Kraus took the receiver in Kirei's place and tested various things. But in the end, they were unable to notify the police. The phone itself was definitely live, but the circuit was apparently cut somewhere. Did this mean that they were not so naive? So it's useless after all. It means our enemies aren't naive either. Kirei let out a deep sigh, leaned against the wall, and hung her head for a while. As cool thinking as she was for a brief moment, she might actually have had the naive hope that the phone might actually work. She sneered at herself mockingly for holding on to that naive hope for even a single moment. And then she remembered just what was happening here. Truth be told, even after being shown a scene like that right before her eyes, or rather exactly because of that, she still couldn't think of that gruesome mass murder as something real. It was less that she couldn't believe it, and more that she didn't want to. Ushiramiya Kinzo killed 6 family members. He summoned strange, witch-like, demon-like people right out of thin air, and with something like magic, began to kill people one after another. It's just all so screwed up. Even though she definitely saw it, there was no way she could accept that spectacle. There's no way that's what happened. Those were obviously Father's friends or something. They just hid somewhere in the dining hall beforehand and used some tricks to appear suddenly and fool us. There's no other way to explain something as screwed up as that. But when those 6 had their heads blown apart and golden arrow had flown around and around the room, that had truly looked like magic. Was that another thing we just saw wrong? There's no way it was magic. It was definitely some kind of setup. Since those heads were smashed, there's no doubt it was some kind of explosive. For example, a styrene toy plane like they sell at candy stores, painted gold, and with a powerful explosive loaded onto the end of it. However, though it had seemed to be flying about at random, Kiri couldn't imagine that after being fired 6 times, each time had perfectly hit the victim square in the head, one after the other. It couldn't be that there was a computer control system for finding and hitting targets, making it a high-tech styrene plane on the same level as a guided missile, right? Would he invest such a large amount of money into developing some stupid trick like that? For that insane sideshow? Does this take us back to the old I wouldn't put it past father? A number of mysterious people appeared out of thin air. 6 people had their heads demolished by a mysterious golden flying object, and the 5 of us were locked away in a mysterious dungeon by a mysterious set of pitfalls, or else put to sleep by some fainting poison dart. The family conference started a bit after 2200. It's only been a bit more than 30 minutes since then. Most likely, even though I witnessed it myself, that event took place in such a short period of time, so I still can't understand it and I still can't come to grips with it. For argument's sake, even if we did get a hold of the police, it would probably be impossible for anybody to accurately explain what we saw. Even though I saw it just now, my brain's fried and I have no confidence in what I saw myself. Kira tried her hardest to cheer herself out of her overwhelming confusion, to just hold on to her sanity. Damn it, what's going on here? Damn it. Damn it! Kraus started to become desperate, hitting the hook multiple times and resetting the dial. Kraus had also been feigning composure, but he was unable to hide his panic. The more he retried the dial, the more the pretense of serenity peeled away. I don't know what's going on anymore. Kiri couldn't help but pray that the events that had just occurred were a dream. At that time, the look on Kraus's face changed. Oh! I got through! I got through! It's ringing! Really, Kraus-san? I see. How shallow, old man. Since we can't contact the police, the external line has probably been cut, but he failed to sever the internal line. The internal line? Kraus-san, where did you call? The guest house. I'm calling the room where Jessica and the rest are staying. Ah? Hello? Hello? It's me. Your... Goda? Is Jessica there? Is she safe? Kraus-sama. I'm so glad you're safe. Yes! Jessica and the other children are here as well, safe and unharmed. Dad! Is it Dad? I'm so glad you're okay. Is Mom okay? Is she there? Kraus choked on his words. Kraus had clearly seen Natsu's head crushed, had seen her killed right before his eyes. Eventually he was going to have to tell that to Jessica. However, Kraus began to fret over whether he should tell her now or not, and lost his words. But even that was an answer under these circumstances. I don't know about your mother. Let's pray for her safety. For now, I'm just glad you're safe. Yeah, I understand. I'm sorry for asking. Jessica's voice was filled with tears. Kraus was certain now. Jessica and the rest had heard everything start to finish after meeting up with Goda and Kumasawa at the guest house. When they learned that 6 people had been killed, they must have been anxious to rush over to the dining hall. Luckily, he had been able to call before they stormed off towards the mansion. Kraus was relieved at this good timing during such a tragedy. We have Kira-san and Dr. Nanjo, as well as Shannon and Cannon here. We've been locked in a place that's like a dungeon, but don't worry. We'll figure something out. A dungeon? Where? We'll come and save you. Unfortunately, we can't figure out where this is either. We think it may be under the dining hall, but that might not be true. Anyway, Jessica, you must stay where you are. You've heard about what happened from Goron and Kumasawa, yes? Yeah. Grandfather... everyone. Grandfather isn't in a sane state of mind right now. If you encounter him, you'll be in danger. You might be killed. You mustn't even think about trying to come and save us. We'll take care of ourselves. Then what should we do? Damn you, Grandfather. How dare you do that to Mom and the rest? I'm gonna kill that undying bastard. Jessica, if you talk like that, you'll sadden your mother. Those aren't the words of a lady. Anyway, put your own safety first. Lock all the guest house doors, but you mustn't overestimate how safe that will make you. The large window in the first floor lounge might get broken. Stay in your room and use a bed to make a barricade. There's a toilet and fridge in there too, right? You should be able to stay holed up until tomorrow morning. Listen up, I'll say it again. Don't think of doing anything violent. Don't even think about trying to take revenge for Mom. Only think of hiding, of getting through this without provoking our enemies. Yeah, I understand, Dad. After that, Goda took the phone and was firmly told to supervise the kids well as an adult. Goda, with his face covered in a cold sweat, repeatedly replied, yes sir, in an excessively tense voice. From there, Kirei took the receiver and spoke with Battler, and when Shannon and Cannon got their turns, George and Jessica answered. Following that pattern, Nanjo and Kumasawa picked up as well, so that all members of both sides took the receiver in turn, confirming that everyone was safe for now, even if their location was unknown, and encouraging each other, coming to an understanding on the current situation for both sides. They wanted to talk forever, but now was not the time to chat. Kraus explained that they would be hanging up for now, and those in the guest house consented. If anything happens, we'll call. Wait by the phone so you can pick it up quickly. Again, be careful. You mustn't do anything rash. Yeah, I understand. As long as you and Kanan-kun and the others are okay, then that's good enough for me. We'll do our best. Stay safe. Yes, of course. Well then, I'm hanging up for now. Be on your guard. With that, the phone call ended. Goda and the rest of the men quickly descended to the first floor, closed the shutters, and secured the sturdy locks on the doors. However, just as Kraus had worried, there was nothing that could be done about the beautiful wide window in the first floor lounge. If someone broke that, it would be easy to get inside. It wouldn't be hard for someone like Ginzo, who hasn't hesitated at committing murder, to invade the first floor. It's likely that Grandfather and his followers will be armed. Locking ourselves in our room is our best bet, and moreover the only method of forming a barricade. It's painful that we have no choice but to hole up in a sealed room, but if our enemies are carrying guns, then that's the only method we have left to us. I have heard that the Master has a collection of working guns. That's right, guns. That was a gun. If so, it must have been a horribly powerful gun. We can't contend with that at all. It takes a lot of force to smash someone's head open, right? So it might be a magnum bullet or something like that. That'd probably go through a flimsy door like it was nothing. If so, then that's even more of a reason to hold out in our room. Let's slide a bed in place and block the window, too. If we do that much, then no matter how many guns they've got, they shouldn't be able to raid us. Crap. All we can do is this passive one-sided defense. Damn it, dealing a finishing blow to Dad and even capturing Kirei? That's gonna cost you, you damn geezer. Impossible, there's no way we can compete with them. Besides, it's not just the Master, he has his underlings, too. There might even be more of them. Just what are they? Battler was filled with the brim with the urge to get revenge for Rudolph, and to rush out of here to save Kirei. But just by looking at how terrified Goda was, there was no doubt in him that this would be reckless. It's gotta be hard on you too, right, Aniki? And yet you've gotta stay holed up here. Damn it. Of course I'm torn up about it too. It's not like I can remain calm with both of my parents murdered. But specifically because of that, I have to remain calm. Do you think our dead parents would want us to die in vain? There's no way they would. They'd want for at least their children to escape. So I will survive, and I'll report this to the police and uncover everything. I'll leave my enemies to the courts. That is my revenge. There's no way our parents would want us to die taking revenge for them, right? You're right. It's just as you say. Damn it, you old bastard. What's this about a ceremony? If we're supposed to be sacrifices or something like that, then we'll escape no matter what it takes, and we'll ruin this precious ritual of yours. That's right. Besides, you still have Kirei-san, Balor-kun. And I still have Shannon. Anyway, let's be cautious and wait for our chance. Any careless actions on our part might just end up causing harm to those who have been captured. Hostages, huh? The grandfather captured them so he could use them as sacrifices, right? If we don't go and save them, then are we just waiting for them to get killed? We don't even know where the dungeon they're being held in is. Shannon and Kanan-kun didn't know about it, and of course Gora-san and Kumasawa-san didn't know either. The possibility that they're in a secret location that only grandfather knows of is incredibly high. Under these circumstances, aimlessly wandering about would be practically suicidal. I understand. But still, damn it. Are you saying the only thing we can do is stay confined here until something happens? Battler-sama, I understand how you feel, but let's put safety first. From what Kraus-sama said, they seem to be in a fairly old cell, and they may be able to break the bar somehow. The wise choice of action now is to believe in them and wait. Grandfather has a number of subordinates and they're all armed, correct? Yes, he does. And they're probably all armed. Goda had been able to say that Kinzo had comrades with him, but he hadn't been able to mention that they were mostly young women like witches, who had used strange magic to murder. If he had said that, it would only have cast doubt on his sanity. No, not only that, he himself still couldn't understand what he had seen, and he was doubting his own sanity. But regardless of sex or appearance, regardless of whether it was done with magic or a gun, the fact that those girls had followed Kinzo's orders and killed 6 people in an instant was an unshakable truth. If that group came to attack the guest house at Well, what would happen? Just closing the doors and windows like this was surely meaningless. Goda and Kumasawa, the only thing left for those two who had witnessed that massacre in the dining hall, was to cradle their heads without knowing how to interpret what they had seen. Kumasawa-san, are you okay? Want some tea? Oh, thank you very much, thank you. I'm sorry, but may I be left with my thoughts for a little while? Maria tried to be nice, but it seemed that Kumasawa still hadn't been able to clear away her confusion. Maria, thanks for being so considerate. Let's let Kumasawa-san rest for now. Jessica was also worried about the shock that those two must have received after witnessing such a tragedy, but her wildest dreams couldn't even come close to the unbelievable scene Kumasawa had witnessed. Nevertheless, with her mother murdered and her father captured, it wasn't as though Jessica could stay calm either. She sealed her anxiety and sadness using her anger toward Kinzo, and walked irritably around the room. Kumasawa-san, is Mom really dead? Yes. I've never seen such a horrible way to die before. Is it possible that she's still alive and that we fix her up? We could save her? It's not possible for a person to have something like that done to their head and live. Yeah, you're right. There's no need for first aid once your head's smashed, usually. When Goda had come flying into the guest house, he had overcome with agitation, told about the massacre in the dining hall without concealing anything, except for the part about witches and magic, which they themselves still couldn't believe. In other words, he hadn't even sugarcoated the cold-blooded way in which Natsuhi and the others had died. It was too late now, but Kumasawa regretted the fact that they'd obviously said too much. However, while lightly shaking her head and with a slightly painful laugh, Jessica spoke. Actually, thanks to what you told us, I was able to stay level-headed. If you'd avoided mentioning the part about her head being smashed, I would have thought she might still be alive. Then I would have run off toward the mansion, met grandfather, and I might have gotten killed. That sliver of hope could have been fatal in the end. So I'm grateful. I'm truly sorry. I'm so sorry we didn't choose our words more carefully. Don't worry about that now. There's nothing we can do for Mom, but Dad's still alive. Kanan-kun and Shannon and Aunt Kiri and Dr. Nanjo too. I want to save them somehow, so we shouldn't do anything unnecessary that might make things worse for them. The most helpful thing that we can do right now might be to wait by the phone. They might receive a phone call asking them to create a diversion while the others escaped, or the others might discover their location and call for rescue. Jessica understood that in order to act promptly when that time came, the only thing they could do for the time being was to wait in this room. Once they had finished inspecting the downstairs area and locking up, George, Battler, and Goda returned. Each was holding various objects. George had things like drinks, canned food, crackers, and other types of snacks that he had found in a lounge in a storage room, as well as a first aid kit. They were all consumables that would be essential during a siege. Goda had a large folding ladder and carpentry tools. Those were to seal the door from the inside, just in case. If it came to it, the ladder was from escaping out the window. Battler had brought up objects that could be used as edged weapons or poles. In addition to the obvious kitchen knife, there was a disassembled table leg that could be used as a club, and a pole roughly the size of a person, which he'd apparently made by taking apart a hat stand. Even the pole had no point, it could surely be used like a spear. There was a good chance that their enemies had guns, so it was dubious whether those would be of any use, but it was still better than not having them, and if having these could give them at least a little peace of mind, then they'd be useful for their calming effect. Then the bed and sofa were placed up against the door, barricading it. They didn't go so far as to seal it up with nails. There was still a chance that Krause and the others would escape and come to meet up with them. They had apparently set up a barricade at the top of the stairs as well. It had been set up in a way that would create a racket, so it would serve as a warning alarm as well. That had apparently been Battler's idea. For that reason, they turned the TV off. This way, if the first floor window were to be broken, they could hear. Once that switch had been turned, all that was left was an eerie silence. The sound of violent wind and rain. Were they going to have to spend the whole night being crushed by such suspense? The boat would come tomorrow morning. However, judging by the weather report, most of tomorrow was going to be covered in the typhoon, and the boat probably wouldn't come. The typhoon was set to pass by in the morning of the day after tomorrow. In other words, the boat would be arriving the morning after next, the morning of October 6th. And right now it was late at night on October 4th. It would have to spend more than 30 hours on this island, with Kinzo turned cold-blooded murderer and his weird companions prowling about. Even with the shutters closed, there would definitely be a little bit of light seeping out. It might let the enemy know that they were hiding here. Battler suggested that it might be best to turn off the lights, but they had been already overwhelmed by a ghastly feeling just from turning the TV off. There wasn't anyone who directly challenged his proposal, but then again, there wasn't a single other person who agreed with it. You can't watch TV? Yeah, sorry, but you'll have to bear with it. We can't just let the sound of the enemy breaking in slip by. Boring. Even though she had been told of her mother's death, Maria didn't feel an approaching sense of danger. She just seemed to be upset that the TV had been turned off. Even though she's in such a bizarre situation, can she not share in our sense of danger? Is it because she's so young? To Battler, even this faintly unsettling feeling from such a young girl made him sense that there was something very eerie about Maria. That said, we've already done all we can. Do you think you'll be able to do anything about the bars? Unfortunately, they're tougher than expected. I don't know when these were made, but there's no problem with their lifetime guarantee. These truly were built rather well. Kyria chuckled softly. They had no moves they could make, but she had calmed just a little. This place is just like the capture pile of a chess game. So are there no remaining moves left to us? Not yet. It's still too early to give up. If we stop thinking, we might as well stop breathing, right? Exactly. Chess pieces in the capture pile may serve no purpose, but in shogi they can be quite significant. Just one captured pawn should be able to put pressure on the opponent. I see. But still, there's nothing that can be done about these bars. For us, maybe. But if we can figure out where this is and contact Goda-san, he might be able to come and save us. I see. But that would mean putting Goda-san in danger. And if that happens, I would also be worried about the children in the guest house, alone without a full-grown adult male. When you're afraid of risk, it's alright to bide your time until the price starts to go up. However, if you're too afraid to cut your losses, you might end up with just a scrap of paper. Though in this case, that represents our lives. And our dignity as parents, right? After talking big like that during the telephone call, telling them that they should behave just because we'll manage something on our own, we can't just start asking for help right away. That would be very uncool. By this point, I've long since thrown out such useless pride. Why don't we put our heads together? Where is this? Is it really underneath the dining hall? Or else is it a different place separate from the mansion? Crust, Kiri, and Nanja began to discuss this further. Kenan was squatting by the bar, silently trying to sense anyone's presence, just as he had been ordered. Shannon came close to him and they both squatted down together. Do you sense anyone? Yes. They haven't focused their attention in this direction, but there's somebody relatively close by. Is it human? I think it's the goats. Their breathing is rather noisy. Kenan's ability to sense the presence of others was several levels above that of a human. He said that their breathing was noisy, but Kraus and the rest couldn't even pick up the slightest hint of it. Therefore, if he had obediently reported it, they would have merely doubted Kenan's ears. They got us, didn't they? It's rare to think that they captured us without killing us. This time Beatrice-sama didn't make an appearance, and the master left his study. I don't have a clue what's going on. I know. Whatever happens or changes, it's all for that witch's fickle entertainment. In the end, nothing will change. I wonder if we'll be able to go to the Golden Land this time. Who knows? We have a high rate of losing. Come to think of it, it's very rare for us to survive the first twilight together. I get the feeling that it's incredibly unusual for us to be able to talk together like this even though the ceremony has already begun. That may be, but even that's just for the witch's entertainment, I'll bet. I can't think of it as anything other than her letting us live just a little longer to ridicule us, since we usually drop out right in the beginning. I wonder if we'll be unable to reach the Golden Land again. I'm sure we won't make it there. If we hold on to any foolish hope, we'll get taken advantage of again. That's right. Last time you got taken advantage of, didn't you? I'm an idiot. Kenan made a sour look and turned his head. Shannon laughed softly and apologetically leaned towards his shoulder. But I'm glad Milady is safe. She's only escaped from the first twilight. She might just be waiting for an even crueler death later on. What about you, Nason? Aren't you glad George-sama's safe? It'd be nice if you two could reach the Golden Land together. Thank you. I wish the same for you and Milady as well. I wasn't hoping for anything like that. It's just as you say. That witch is only having fun dangling prizes in front of people and watching them vainly try to get them. I'm sure no one will be able to go to the Golden Land. If I wish to reach the Golden Land with Milady, then that person will find it funny and will certainly never let us reach that place. You're right. Beatrice-sama is thinking about which order of sacrifices will be the most interesting. The whole thing about them being chosen at random is just a blatant lie. That swindling witch. All that about having any wish you want granted in the Golden Land is probably just a lie too. That's not true. The Golden Land is a wonderful place. Have you been there? Only for a little bit. Though even that was probably just a joke of Beatrice-sama's. What's it like there? Well, it's a wonderful place. I can't really explain it well. It's like a world from a pleasant dream. A paradise-like place with roses blooming all over and beautiful butterflies dancing about, or something like that. It's not a place with a tangible image like that. It's really like the inside of a dream. When you're there, it's very gentle, very peaceful, and you're allowed to sleep as long as you want, like when you wake up early on a day off lying on a futon. Sunlight comes in through the cracks in the curtains and you think you'll have to wake up soon. But then you realize it's your day off and you can go back to sleep. It's a place where you can feel like that. I think it'd be wasted on me. Waking up accident, even though it's your day off, is something only you would do, Nason. So? Well, when I was there, it was very satisfying and very calm. When I returned to this world, even though I had just been there a second ago, I couldn't remember it well. It's like when you can't remember a dream you were just having, but I still remember that it was a very calm and quiet world. That's it? What the heck, that Golden Land she's always bragging about isn't anything great at all. I thought it was a place where all your wishes come true. That's right. It's a place where all your wishes will be granted. Oh, maybe that's not quite it. It might be better to say that it's a place where you won't wish for anything. For example, Kanan-kun, if you were cold and wished you had a jacket, you'd be happy to be given one. But if you were a warm room to begin with, there wouldn't be a reason to want a jacket, right? That's what the Golden Land is like. There's no need to even wish for most wishes. It's a world where everything is calm. You could even say it's a place that transcends the concepts that having your wish granted will bring happiness. A world released from everything. It sounds somewhat like a religious world. And there, everything is equal. Anything that can think is equal. There are no humans, furniture, nor witches. There, I was equal to everyone. There was no longer any need to feel ashamed that I was furniture. It was honestly a happy world where all humans and even witches were equal. I can't really remember well, but I have the feeling that when I was there, I was equal even to Beatrice-sama, and we were good friends. If that witch is there, that can't be that much of a paradise. So you want to go to that Golden Land with George-sama? How strange. The Golden Land is a utopia where you can be pleased with everything, right? Wouldn't you be content even if George-sama wasn't there? The Golden Land is very calm, peaceful, and everything is equal. But actually, happiness alone is left out. It isn't a happy world? Of course, just by being peaceful, calm, and equal, it's an incredibly happy world. But I guess you could say that it's a world of zero, where you're released from all negative worries. The human world is filled with negatives, so of course a zero is incredibly happy. But it's still zero. What a luxurious problem to have. It's something like this. When you're nodding off on your quiet holiday morning, if the person you love the most is next to you and holding your hand, then it can become an even greater, more wonderful happiness. Something like that. Sorry, your Nason is too dumb to be any good at analogies. In other words, to you, the greatest happiness would be reaching that world together with George-sama. Yes, and surely for you it would be reaching that world together with Milady. We'll be released from our worries in a fair world? It's like some kind of strange religion. I'm more worldly minded. I imagined a world where we would be given some magic medicine, or could be reborn as humans, or something more like that. If you go, you'll understand. If Beatrice-sama really is a fickle person, then surely one day she'll let you get a glimpse of it too. If so, then you'll be able to understand my analogy. Well, I'm not holding my breath. At any rate, it seems like game over for us this time already. I'll hope for another chance. You're right. If we cling to any overambitious hopes, Beatrice-sama will take advantage of us. It might be best to just stop thinking and let fate take care of us. We can just be simple chess pieces. No matter what we think or don't think, we can't escape from the witch's chessboard. Our role is now just to wait and see how we'll be tortured to death. For us, the dream of the Golden Land is too empty. You're right. Sorry. Kanan shrugged his shoulders and told Shannon to leave him alone because she was in the way of his duty, distancing himself from her. Realizing her thoughtlessness in bringing up such an inappropriate topic and instead hurting Kanan, Shannon bit her lower lip and stared at the ground. Shannon wouldn't bother him anymore. She went off and crouched down in a corner by herself. At that moment, Kanan perked up. It was like the ears of a cat when it reacts to a strange sound. What's wrong? Shh. Krau-sama, someone's coming. What? They ended their conversation and strained their ears. For a while, they couldn't hear anything, but eventually they were able to hear the shuffling sounds of a large group of people walking. So they've come. Time to pay the piper, or perhaps this is our first and last chance. I shall talk to Kinzo-san. I will try to somehow find out where this place is. We're counting on you. During the last phone call, Curie had asked what the time over at the guest house was. By doing that, Curie had learned that it was the same as her watch, and she had learned that their watches hadn't been set back. It wasn't just the clocks on the walls in the guest house. Several people's watches, including George's and Goda's, had matched. If that was the case, then it had only been a few minutes between the time of the massacre in the dining hall that they had been transported to the dungeon. Not enough time had passed for them to be knocked out and carried away. Then were those really pitfalls, meaning this was the area directly under the dining hall? All that they could do was pray that Nanja could find out where this was. They're coming. There's probably 4 people. The master and 3 of those who appeared in the dining hall. That's enough. You come back here as well. We'll deal with the rest. Chen and Chen, sorry, but can I have you sit by the phone? Hide it with your skirt. Yes. The shuffling came close, and there was the sound of a large door being opened in the hallway. The light they were apparently carrying illuminated the hall, stroking the walls with sharp razor-like shadows. And then the light from the lantern that they held illuminated the prisoners through the bars. The bars' sharp shadows divided them up lengthwise. There were 4 silhouettes. It was Kinzo, Ronove, Virgilia, and Gap. Silence, everyone. Please welcome the head of the Ushiromiya family, Lord Goldsmith. Goldsmith? It's father's pen name. It seems he always signs with it when writing those bizarre grimoires. Kinzo made it English style? Shouldn't that be Gold Warehouse? What more is a warehouse than a place to keep things in? However, I give birth to gold and use my craftsmanship to further increase its worth. Don't you think Smith is much more fitting? True enough. I apologize for butting in. Ginto-san, just what is going on? Where in the world is this? Oh, my friend, can't you remember? True, you may have never entered the prison, but you should remember by walking through this corridor. Huh? You don't mean... Do you have an idea? Well, it is unthinkable. Firstly, we fell through a pitfall and were locked in here after only a few minutes. Not only is the distance too great, that's physically impossible. For a human, right? Father, is this the mansion? To think that the mansion had a basement like this. Kraus, wasn't there a place whose existence you all whispered of, which you followed after me several times trying to find? This is that place. No, to be correct, this is its basement. Could this place be the basement of Kuwadorian? A splendid observation. This is indeed the basement of Kuwadorian. Kuwadorian? You don't mean Father's rumored hidden mansion? It really exists? This mansion was constructed for the sole use of my beloved witch, Beatrice. It's truly a shame that I cannot guide you to the above-ground sections that is such a beautiful and elegant mansion. How lovely. Just the 2 of them alone in a mansion with a prison like this. I guess Father's tastes are a bit more than I can stomach. Curious-san, perhaps it would be wiser to refrain from such rude comments. But I agree. If a mansion I was given had this kind of dungeon in it, that'd shake me out of even a century-long love, and I'd take everything of value and run. Oh my, so you don't have an interest in this kind of thing? And here I was thinking you went head over heels with it. Of course I go head over heels. Like if I get a collar or something for a birthday present. But only if he's hot. Silence. Perhaps you could use a gag more than a collar right now. Oh, you have an interest in that too? You sure aren't picky, Leah. Don't just go around shortening people's names on your own. Enough, you noisy women. Are you telling me you'd like to be locked up in the same cell? I apologize, Master. This old body of mine would not be able to stand such a cold prison. Virgilia quickly apologized, but Gap and Runaway merely laughed together. It was like they thought they alone couldn't be imprisoned. Or else that even if someone tried to imprison them, it would be pointless. A prison is a place from which the captured cannot escape. That implies a strong will and love to not let them go for a lifetime. It's not even worth speaking of love to a woman you would give up on if she ran away. A woman who makes you so insane that you don't want to let her escape to the point of binding her in chains. Because she was worthy of that. She was a love worth sacrificing my life for. I will not ask you to understand. No one can bind me. I will not be bound. I don't want to be love. I want to love. I feel the same as Goldsmith. That's why I understand the madness of your love. Love and madness are 2 sides of the same coin, or so they say. How bothersome. But learning where we are so easily was a big step. We'll ask the details later, but it seems you know about this place, right, Dr. Nanjo? Yes. If that hallway is the underground passage beneath Kuadorian, then if we go straight down it will become a long tunnel. And if we stay on that, we should be able to return to the mansion. Then if we could just do something about these bars, we could go home. Father, what are you planning to do with us? As I have already declared, you will become the sacrifices for the later twilights. There are conveniently 5 people here. Exactly enough hostages for the 5 gougings. I see. Then it's time for us to pay the piper? Eventually. That's not why I've come to visit you this time, so relax. Besides, I believe I've said it already. If one of my grandchildren is deemed suitable to inherit everything from me, then the ceremony will be called off. In other words, your lives will be spared. What are you planning to do to the children? I shall give them a test. A test to see if they are suitable to be the successor or not. If even one of them can surprise me, I'll call the ceremony off. And if there isn't anyone suitable, what are you planning on doing with the children? There's no need to worry about that. After all, you all will be sacrificed first. How could anything like that happens after that concern you? Entrust your fates to your own children. Your children, the embodiment of what you've born, taught and raised. They should be the most suitable ones for you to entrust with your fate. Don't look so worried, Kraus. Believe in the daughter that you brag is worth 10 billion yen. Exactly. Children are the embodiment of their parents. It's fitting that we put our fates in their hands. That applies even to you, father, right? This girl has guts. What a waste on Rudolph. Kira-san, it would be best not to aggravate him too much. I agree. Let's bear with it for now. That's right. After all, we're just fish on the chopping board. There's nothing we can do now. Ha! Though you can insult me with such vigor. I don't dislike that kind of woman, see? Beatrice was like that too in the beginning. Master, perhaps we should get back to the main topic. We've been off track for a while now. Ah yes, there was that. Sorry, my friend. Well then, back to the main event. For that, I've prepared a phone. Shannon, how clever of you. You don't have to hide it any longer. That's something I arranged for. My apologies. Shannon quickly withdrew herself, and the telephone was revealed. Kraus, call the grandchildren in the guest house. Tell them of the test and of the start of my trial. Ronove motioned for Kraus to pick up the receiver. And if I say no? Oh, and why do you think you're in a position to negotiate? If you don't make the call, then the grandchildren won't even be given a chance. The Ushiromiya family will end here. And I'll sacrifice you all right away. You'll be lucky to become sacrifices right away. Don't you think it'd be more painful to watch the children get sacrificed first before your very eyes? Gap. The master is the one who decides the sacrifice order. Don't say things on your own. Leah, you just tried to shorten my name, didn't you? I did not. And I told you not to shorten other people's names on your own. Oh, women truly are noisy. Freaky ass grandpa. That. See that your brain is huge for the Vergicap moment. Leah Gap. The clinic that Nanja had opened and later passed on to his son still existed on Nijima. This aged doctor was Nanja's son, but the atmosphere about him was very different. I'm truly sorry to say this after you have come all this way, but I have nothing in particular to tell you. Nanja's son said that very indifferently. After the accident on that island was taken up by the broadcast in a most indiscreet manner, even my father, who is Mr. Ushiromiya's doctor and friend, was focused upon by many with a wholly regrettable interest. All of it was without proof, and they even managed to defile all of my father's previous achievements. I still feel a great deal of resentment because of that. I think that's understandable. The same thing happened to me. I had to put up with it constantly since I was 6. True. My apologies. The doctor finally remembered that NJ was also a victim who had been exposed to the same curious eyes as he had been. In that case, you can probably understand why I don't want anything to do with that incident. That was an unfortunate accident. The only ones who want to make a fuss about it being a crime are those irresponsible TV shows and magazines. I am more than fed up with their attitude. Nanjo had been bathed with attention for being one of Ushiromiya Kinzo's few friends. Because of that, there was probably an aggressive and persistent rush among the witch hunters in the press to use Nanjo's son as well, a surviving relative, as a source of information. The doctor went on and on, criticizing the press indignantly. I really understand how you feel. For a person like me who was observed even in her personal life, and whose privacy, likeness, and even human rights might have been violated, it's really easy to pick up on the anger of someone in your position. And for that very reason, I want to know more than anything else. What in the world happened in the incident that so thoroughly ruined my life? So I came here. I'm a related party just like you, not a magazine columnist or an interviewer. Please don't get the wrong idea. I didn't come to do this for fun. Quit looking down on me. If we're gonna argue over whose life was most screwed up by the incident, you're no match for me. NJ spoke sharply. The doctor, who hadn't imagined that he would be talked back to in such a forceful manner, couldn't help but fall silent. From NJ's perspective, the doctor really was whining over nothing. She really didn't want to be looked down upon. It was about time to let him understand how many days had passed for her before arriving on this island. The doctor realized that he'd said something wrong and remained silent for a while, looking uncomfortable. I know it's probably painful to remember what happened at the time, but if there's anything you do know, please tell me, no matter what it is. Of course, I'll keep quiet about it. I visited here today to bring some resolution to my life. I'm 18. That incident took away 12 years of my life, and it'll probably keep on taking. Since that day when I was 6 years old, I've remained shut away in darkness. Are you saying that despite that, I still don't have a right to know? No. How rude of me. It seems that since all the others who came here were ill-natured folk, I instinctively put up my guard. I apologize for my rudeness. I understand. If you'll swear not to breathe a word of this to anyone, I'll tell you everything. Thanks, Doctor. And if you would, please tell me anything you can. As you know, my father was not only Mr. Ushiromiya's head physician, but his friend through the game of chess. That relationship was very long, stretching back to the time Mr. Ushiromiya moved to Rokkenjima. Just how close were they? Very close, it seems. It seems that their connection through chess led my father to stay at Mr. Ushiromiya's mansion quite often. Although I may not be one to talk, Mr. Ushiromiya was extremely moody, and my father was an exceedingly magnanimous man who excelled at interacting with humans like him. It's not hard to imagine that he was a rare friend for the isolated Mr. Ushiromiya. That day was the day of the family conference. At the Ushiromiya family conference, the family's wealth and its management were rigorously scrutinized, making it almost like a financial conference. Which means Dr. Nanjo must have gained a trust so great that he was asked to attend even that, right? My father was a simple doctor, so I cannot imagine that he was in a position to advise on the management of financial resources for a massively rich family like the Ushiromiya family. He was most likely called there to assist with Mr. Ushiromiya's health because it was not at its best at the time. As Kinzo's close friend, I'm sure my father would have kept his mouth shut, and that he was trusted not to leak the secrets of the family conference. Wasn't Ushiromiya Kinzo in very bad health at the time? Were there any medical charts left behind? Perhaps he brought the medical charts with him on the day of the accident. I'm afraid to say that the entire folder of Mr. Ushiromiya's medical charts has been lost. He was my father's patient, so I do not know the details. Around the time of the incident, did anything strange happen? Yes, there was one thing. However, it seems exceedingly likely to invite misunderstandings, so I very much do not wish to discuss it. What is it? Please tell me. For a while, the doctor beat around the bush, but after saying that much, he wouldn't be able to fool NJ by dodging the subject. He eventually gave in, and after making NJ swear herself to secrecy again, he told her. The truth is, several days after that accident, I received something by mail at my home. By mail. It was very curious. The sender was made out to be me, but I had no memory of it. Someone had faked my name and sent it. The destination was Rebun Island in Hokkaido. Excluding the northern territories, it is at the northernmost tip of Japan. The recipient was apparently a resident on Rebun Island, but the name was my father's. However, it seemed that there was a problem with the destination address, so it was stamped as address unknown and returned to the sender, me. It was truly a strange tale. Nanjo's son's name was written on it as the sender. However, he said that he hadn't mailed the letter. In short, that meant someone had faked his name and sent it. The destination was Nanjo Terumasa on Hokkaido's Rebun Island, but the lot number written on it didn't exist. The local post office had been unable to deliver it and instead sent it back to the sender, Nanjo's son. What was inside? I do ask that you keep silent about this. It is extremely troublesome to me as well. And even so, I cannot throw it away. The doctor stood up and faced a bookshelf. There was packed a group of dictionaries that could only have been ornamental, meant to make it very clear that the owner was an intellectual. When he pulled several volumes out from there, a large brown envelope peeked out from behind them. He took that and tossed it onto the desk. It had been carefully sealed with cellophane tape, and its faded color and dryness made it clear that it had been sealed 12 years ago. I ask most solemnly for your silence on this matter. Being so persistent that it was annoying, the doctor removed the seal with a paper knife. Then, when he tilted the envelope, an already opened mail envelope spilled out. The envelope had a weight to it, hinting that there was something other than a letter inside. The recipient was certainly Nanjo Terumasa. Just seeing that was a huge shock. Following that incident, Nanjo's corpse had not been found, and he had eventually been treated as dead after going missing under extraordinary circumstances. And despite that, this letter addressed to a Nanjo in Hokkaido existed. One could almost take this as a sign that he had faked his own death and escaped to Hokkaido. Was Dr. Nanjo really in Hokkaido? Or else was there another person with the same first and last names in Hokkaido? If my father had somehow escaped from the accident and lived on in Hokkaido, that would have made us of his family very happy regardless of the circumstances. I also thought of that possibility at first. However, the envelope's destination address does not exist. In short, this envelope was mailed that had no way of reaching him. Is there a possibility that the sender miswrote the correct address? Of course, I cannot deny it. However, judging from the resident's house number, I find that hard to believe. Hokkaido, Rebun Island, Rebun County, Rebun City, 1234, 567. Up until Rebun City, it's fine, but I just couldn't wipe away the feeling that the sequential number after it, 1234, 567, was a little insincere. It felt like a fake number that some kid had made up. They probably wrote a nonsense number that clearly didn't exist. I think it's natural to assume that from the very beginning, this envelope was sent to a non-existent residence to which it had no chance of being delivered. If the destination address doesn't exist, mail is generally returned to the sender. But even in the case of an incomplete address, the local post office will often courteously, and to the best of its ability, research to find whether the sender's intended destination exists. When they still can't find it, the mail is sometimes returned after an investigation of several days. It seemed that the same thing had happened with this envelope, and the stamp was postmarked on October 3rd. It was postmarked on Nijima. Nijima was a long way away from Rebun Island. On top of that, the destination was also nonsensical. It had taken more than a week for the mail to be returned. In other words, there was probably a high chance that having the envelope returned to the sender after an unfixed amount of time had been the goal from the very beginning. Why do something like that? Even before asking what it was that had been sent, this envelope was already wrapped in mystery. And inside it? Go ahead." After getting the doctor's permission, I tilted the already opened envelope. From the inside came a small folded letter and a small key with a number plate attached. Then a magnetic card slid out. A112 was engraved on the key's number plate. I didn't know what it meant. The magnetic card was pitch black and had gold characters engraved in it. Members was written in English. The jet black gold lettered card design made it feel like something very high class. But of course, I didn't have a clue what kind of card it was just from that. I unfolded the letter. Its contents were extremely brief, and only the following was written: 07151129. Also written was the name of a certain massive bank known throughout Japan, as well as the word Central Branch. That was all. And this is? It's a card, a key, and a pin for a safe deposit box. And it wasn't a normal safe deposit box either. It was an unsettling one, which was apparently reserved only for special clients. After he finished putting his affairs in order following his father's funeral, he had visited the bank. Pin and key and card. There was no doubt that something of great importance was kept there, and he had been naturally curious about what it might be. At first, he didn't know what to do. The card wasn't something he'd owned in the first place. When he mustered up his courage and showed the bank card to a bank clerk, he was then switched to a clerk of clearly high status, and was guided to a large vault in the 4th basement. The security on the way there was strict. The doctor had himself stored valuable items such as real estate transcripts in safe deposit boxes before, but this was something on a whole different level. Unlike the procedure at the deposit box I had been using, with this system, as long as you had a card, a pin, and a key, you didn't need to have your identity confirmed. But anyway, I was frightened at how imposing that secure vault was, and I wondered what kind of shady objects might await me that had to be stored in a place like this. And then, when I passed the card through the reader, I was asked to input the PIN, and after that 8-digit number was input and authenticated, I was permitted access to the vault. It was an incredible scene, a world like something from a sci-fi movie. The massive, dimly lit silver room was covered with doors to safes. He had entered that room along with the clerk. It seems as soon as the card was read, the vaults he had a right to were determined, so that the safes he could open were lit with a green light, while those he couldn't open were lit with a red one. A112 was one of those safes that were marked. By the way, there were several other safes marked with a green lamp besides that one. I think there were at least 20. There might even have been more in the other corner. In any event, I only had the key to A112. I had no way of checking the contents of the other safes. As the clerk watched, the doctor had unlocked and opened the safe. When he did, a safe drawer like a large cabinet had opened. An expensive-looking duraluminum case peeked out. That was carried into a separate room where for the first time the clerk left, and he was introduced to the contents. And the contents were? Cash. Cash? How much? I have heard that a pack of 1 million yen in fresh banknotes is precisely 1 centimeter thick. Since those were packed tightly into a duralumin case of such a size, there was probably 100 million in total. I don't know, because I didn't count. I didn't even touch it with my hands. I realized at once, this was dangerous money. It isn't normal to store a whole 100 million yen in cash in a case in a safe like that. It's much easier to deal with it if you put it into an account and turn it into numbers. When someone is unable to do that, then it's clear that there's something wrong with that cash. My mind went blank and I instantly realized that I mustn't get involved. So you didn't use it at all? Correct. I locked it back up just as I'd found it, returned it to the original safe, and left. I have thought about throwing that key and card, but I don't know what will happen. For that reason, I have been hiding it in the back of this bookcase for a full 12 years. I still do not know what kind of money that was. Could I borrow this envelope? No. Please just view it here. Understood. Then, if you'll excuse me, there's something I want to investigate. I took One-chan's grimoire from the knapsack I had set down. Then I opened it to the page with the paragraph Beatrice had written to One-chan, and compared the handwriting on both. There was no mistake about the characteristic handwriting. The one who had sent this 100 million yen in cash was Beatrice herself. But what is it? Something's bugging me. What is it? What could it be? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got something like that in the mail. Hey Ma, where'd you put that? The same envelope and contents had been sent to Kumasawa's son, who had once lived with her. But he had been very busy in the days since, and seemed to have forgotten about it while running around all over the place. However, its strange contents had apparently stayed in his memory, and he remembered as soon as NJ mentioned it to him. After a bit of a wait, his thin-lipped wife found the envelope, complaining that he always forgot where he put things right away. The modus operandi for the sender and recipient was the same as Nanjo's son's. The sender was made out to be Kumasawa's son, and the recipient was Kumasawa Chiyo, and the destination address was in the Okinawa Prefecture. Okinawa Prefecture, Yaeyama County, Yonaguni City, 1234567. Yonaguni Island was at the westernmost tip of Japan, and the lot name was the exact same sequential number that had apparently been chosen without much care. Now it was certain. The envelope was definitely sent with the goal of having it be returned to the sender. Its contents were exactly the same. A letter with the pin and the bank's main branch written on it, a magnetic card, a key with an attached number plate. The inscription on the number plate was A113, the number right after the one in the key that had been sent to Nanjo. More likely, inside of the vault was the same kind of case packed with 100 million yen in cash. I get the feeling my dead mother sent it to me from beyond the grave. Don't really get what it's inside, and it's creepy, so I just left it alone all this time and totally forgot about it until today. So you know what this is, girl? Could it be that the same kind of thing came to your place? What is it, NJ-sama? Is it a headache? A headache? Sorry, my head hurts. I've got it. I know. What do you mean you know? You don't mean this envelope came to your place too, NJ-sama? I've remembered. A strange envelope was also sent to me 12 years ago. After losing my entire family, I was depressed, but it was a really strange thing to come in the mail, so I still had a faint memory of it. It was a strange letter which I had no memory of sending, but which had me as the sender. I forgot the destination address, but the named recipient had been Ushiromiya Rudolph, my father. I remember how disturbed I was when I got a letter I thought was from father, opened it up, and found a key and a card that I didn't really understand. I felt let down and threw it away somewhere, I think. Where did I put that envelope? I probably lost it in somewhere in the chaos that followed. By now I have no way of checking its contents. However, I have a general idea. I'm sure that the contents are the same. Without a doubt, there had been a key, a card, and a note with a pin inside the envelope. Beatrice, what was she trying to do here? Why did she hand out this stupid money to all the surviving relatives? I won't forgive her for mocking them even after their deaths. Are you NJ? Sakutaro acted nervously. As I looked at his worrying face, my agitation began to cool off bit by bit. I'm sorry. My hatred of Beatrice isn't anything new. I was just surprised and angry to find out that I had a connection with the witch already at the age of 6 on that day. For the past 12 years, you've been constantly enslaved by Beatrice-sama's curse. This might be proof of that curse. But please hang in there. Breaking through that was supposed to be part of the goal of this journey. That's right. Just letting the blood rise to my head won't get me anywhere. Got to think calmly. What's going on? What's the meaning of handing out 100 million yen to the relatives? Is she trying to provoke us? Damn that Beatrice. NJ, calm down. Ryu. As Sakutaro burrowed his head in my stomach, he urged me to stay calm. I took another deep breath and started thinking. I wonder if this envelope was sent to support the theory that Beatrice was behind that crime. It was postmarked right before the family conference, and it was intentionally set up so it would be sent back after some time. They wanted to arrive after the incident, is that it? Yeah, that's what it implies. But it raises a few questions. Why use such an uncertain method? Uncertain? Yes. After all, no one could even guess at how many days it would take for the mail to return before you used this trick. Normally, you couldn't even guess at the amount of time it would take for the receiving post office to do their research, determine that the recipient was unknown, and return it. Yeah, now that you mention it, I'd be more dependable if they just set an arrival date and mailed it that way. Maybe, but still, if they mailed it the day before, then no matter how quickly it returned, it would probably arrive Monday or later. I wonder if they wanted to make it seem like a letter from the dead. A letter from the dead, you say? You're right. It surprised me and it made me feel bad. The mail with my dead family's name written on the outside in large letters was thrown into the mailbox with an ominous label attached. However, it doesn't really make sense to me. I would have mailed it to arrive on a specific day. I just can't understand why someone would allow the uncertainty of it arriving on a day other than the one that they imagined. For you. But it really does sound like Beto to me. Huh? You know about Beto? Well, I only talked with her a little. Still, I can pretty much accept that Beto would do something like this. Can you imagine that happening too, Mammon? Beto likes pranks like this, right? Yeah, that might be true. I wouldn't put it past Beatrice Sama to try a vicious prank like a letter from the dead. No, that's not all. Beatrice would find it more interesting to do it through an uncertain method instead of one that was absolutely certain. She would find an uncertain method interesting? I remembered Maria One-chan's diary. It had described playing with Beatrice very often. During those times, Beto sometimes played pranks on adult relatives with Maria, but those pranks always had a touch of witch aesthetics, which was that they were more interesting when they were uncertain. One day, Maria One-chan and Beto decided to use a wind-up minicar she had bought for a prank. It was a popular toy at the time, and if you made the minicar back up, it would wind up the spring in the tires, and when you let go, it would race forwards. They had wound up that minicar and set it behind a milk jug. In other words, the prank was that if you lifted the milk jug, the minicar would jump forwards and surprise whoever did it. Hoping that someone would get caught in this prank, One-chan and Beto had watched the adults from the shadows for their whole tea time. They were looking forward to seeing someone get caught by it, but no one moved the trapped milk jug, and the trap ended in a misfire. When One-chan had then muttered, "We should have put it somewhere where it would definitely have caught someone," Beto apparently said this: "The most interesting and thrilling traps are those where you don't know who will get caught, or even if anyone will get caught at all." It's probably true that you wouldn't get this kind of excitement from a trap that would definitely go off. Oops. Similar accounts occurred in multiple places, making it possible to guess that the witch called it Beatrice had a fickle character and loved a random thrill. A fickle person is very hard to deal with. I can't spin the chessboard around to find out what that witch from 12 years ago was planning. As NJ examined these, her gaze darted from place to place. Then she suddenly showed interest in the wall. There, several framed pictures were hung. Many of them were commemorative photos from when the relatives of the Kumasawa family gathered or went somewhere to play, and Kumasawa was in several. And she still wore a smile that made it so you could almost hear her light-hearted ho-ho-ho laugh. It's part of my distant memory, but I definitely remember that she was this sort of cheerful old lady. Did you notice anything different about Kumasawa-san in the days leading up to the incident? Nope. She looked the same as ever. The family conference put her on edge, so she was always grumbling about how tough it was. What's this? Among the several frames, there was one that had something other than a picture of people in it. It was a picture of an enlarged relief of a door from a Western-style house or something. You couldn't see any interesting subject in particular, which actually bugged me a bit, as I wondered why anyone had gone through all the trouble of taking it. As I got closer, I realized that some characters had been written with a pen. Oh yeah, that's a photo that I got when Mother's belongings were distributed. I think it probably has something to do with that legend of the gold thing. The witch's epitaph, you mean? It was whispered that it pointed out the location of the hidden 10 tons of gold. So Kumasawa-san tried to solve it too. But that isn't the epitaph. It's the first time I've seen it. There was an arch above the Western-style door, and that's where the relief was. English words were engraved there, and that seemed to be what the picture was focused on. The pen writing appeared to be a translation into Japanese. This door is opened only at a probability of a quadrillion to 1. You will be blessed only at a probability of a quadrillion to 1. I don't recognize it. Nothing like this ever showed up in the epitaph or One-chan's diary. In Mother's belongings, there were quite a few photos and notes that looked like her trying to solve the riddle of the epitaph. Mother was actually surprisingly fond of that kind of thing. And there was that rumor that 10 tons of gold bars were hidden somewhere. It's no surprise she got so absorbed by it. In both Maria One-chan's diary and in her grimoire, there was a description of the witch's epitaph. It had talked about how it was a ceremony to open the door to the Golden Land, Beatrice's resurrection ceremony, Beatrice's succession ceremony, on and on. Maybe the most interesting one was the last part about it being a succession ceremony. According to Beatrice, if you were able to solve the witch's epitaph, you would receive not only the 10 tons of gold and the Ushirimiya family inheritance, but her own magical power and name, as well as the title of the Golden Witch. Among the Ushirimiya family household at that time, the witch's epitaph was thought of as a difficult quiz, which the family head Kinzo had arranged for to choose his successor. But with the Maria Sorcier interpretation, the questioner was Beatrice herself, and she had posed the question in part to choose her successor. There were slight discrepancies in the details of the two interpretations. Either way, its ominous contents brought to mind a bloody serial murder, and both of the message bottles drew a tale of a crime following that pattern. If I could solve the witch's epitaph now, 12 years later, I wonder if I could expose some plot made back then. I tried to solve it many times myself, but never did have a clue what it meant. It seems that many witch hunters tried as well. I also found theories like La Plata theory and the Norua theory in certain books. However, neither of those theories were conclusive. Are there any other materials? I think so, but they were all split up between my siblings. I don't have a clue who has what. Sorry. Just reading this English text that Kumasawa-san took a picture of, it gives the impression that this was a forbidden door that was rarely opened. But where in the mansion is it, I wonder? Judging by the lighting, it looks like it's outside. I wonder if Kumasawa-san thought that the gold might be hidden in there. Who knows? Either way, I do wonder where in the Rokkanjima mansion it was. I hate to say it, but there wasn't enough money in Mother's bank account to make me think she found the gold. Haha, she probably didn't find it after all. The Golden Witch, Beatrice, gave 10 tons of gold to Kinzao, which meant that the witch was the true owner of the gold. Beatrice was the owner of all of the vast fortune of the Ushirimiya family. The witch holding this vast wealth had massacred the humans on Rokkanjima on that day, sending large amounts of money to the surviving relatives like it was a game. Like hell, it's a letter from the dead. This is a desecration of the dead. I was once again convinced. When my family died on that island that day, they didn't go to heaven. They're being trapped by the witch even now, and are being desecrated and tormented for all eternity. The last place NJ visited was a store in the region between the housing district and the retail stores, with a signboard saying, Marufuku Sleep Shop. There lived a man who had been the boat captain of the ferry boat to Rokkanjima at that time. Even he, who had once lived as a man of the sea, had retired after contracting a serious illness, and was now taken care of at the house of his son and his son's wife. I remember very well. You were still about this small. Look how you've grown. And it must have been very tough on you. I know very well how you must feel. The former boat captain was in such high spirits that you really couldn't tell why he had retired in the first place. His memory seemed clear too, and he could remember the events of more than a decade ago well, apparently even about how NJ had been at the time. The way he chatted on was very helpful for NJ, but at the same time he also remembered the final family conference very well, and the fact that he remembered even details like Balor's fall madness on the boat was actually painful for her. It had been so back then as well, but even now there was no public way to cross to Rokkanjima. It was necessary to make an individual request to an owner of a boat to make the voyage. I'd been unable to arrange for a boat to Rokkanjima, so if he refused me, such a voyage would probably have become hopeless. I getcha. It won't be easy to find a boat eager to go to that island. By now, there are even some who call it by its own name, Akujikishima, instead of Rokkanjima. It's understandable why the sailors around here would turn down your request. From the start, fishermen had feared Rokkanjima as an island of misfortune, and because of that incident 12 years ago, this fear had reached a peak. They respected that sea, feared it, and revered it. There were almost no sailors who would try to take a boat to the cursed island. Because of that, most of the witch hunters were unable to cross over to Rokkanjima, and were limited to taking a trip around the island. Ironically, this had caused the sense of mystery surrounding Rokkanjima to increase even more, which had resulted in the propagation of the bizarre witch stories they loved so much. Would you take me in your boat? Yep. They're supposed to give it back to me just for tomorrow, though it seems its engine has been in a pretty bad mood lately. I'll knock it into shape. The former boat captain promised that tomorrow he would go back to his previous job and take his boat out to Rokkanjima. Now my method of transport to Rokkanjima is insured. This is probably all I can do on Nijima. All that's left is tomorrow. On Rokkanjima, I'll reach the final destination of a journey that stretches back 12 years. Isn't that great? This way it looks like you'll be able to go to the island. It sure does. I'd heard that it would be hard to find a boat, so the boat captain's helpfulness really saved me. Although it may not be the same as it was for you, Enji-sama, I'm sure the incident 12 years ago has been a thorn for the boat captain as well, when he still hasn't been able to pull out. Even the boat captain wasn't able to sort out his feelings this whole time. That's probably true. If that guy had taken his boat out on October 5th as promised, there's a chance that he could have saved a lot of people, if he hadn't been hesitant to go out just because of a little wind. You shouldn't say things like that. I'm sure that's pained the boat captain constantly till today. Apparently they truly had been right in the middle of a typhoon on October 5th. According to the boat captain, he had known for certain that they'd be trapped by the typhoon if they headed to Rokkanjima on October 4th. But the family had been very persistent about the date of their conference, which had been determined beforehand. It was only natural. All of the relatives had been very busy at the time, and they came to the family conference only after arranging their schedules beforehand. It was probably a situation where they couldn't easily push it back to the next week just because a typhoon was approaching. It wasn't the boat captain's fault, but perhaps you could say that he wasn't so responsible that he could put the blame wholly on the typhoon. Certainly, just as these two said, there's no doubt that the boat captain has been dragging the events of the 12 years ago along with him this whole time, and by taking me, the last member of the Shirumi line, to the island, and bringing me back safely, he might be trying to find some resolution for his past. The boat is supposed to return just after noon. I'll guide you to Rokkanjima after that, so we should arrive before evening. It's an island without electricity or lights. You won't be able to stay long. Will you be satisfied with a landing that short? There's nothing that would make me more satisfied by staying longer. I'm grateful just to have you take me there. Yep, don't mention it. If I hadn't parted with my boat, I'd be able to guide you to the island as much as you liked without being stingy. It's not like I have a goal of doing something in particular on Rokkanjima, so I'll be there during the evening. The evening, which straddles the two different worlds of day and night, seemed almost like a borderline between this world and the next. Or possibly 1998 and 1986, and it felt like the most fitting time to visit Rokkanjima. It's not like I have anything in particular to do there. Just staying there for a few hours should be enough for me to find some closure. At that time, there was a small knock on the paper sliding door, and Amakusa stuck his head in, tapping his watch. I nodded back and told him about how I'd succeeded in reserving a boat for tomorrow. That's great. It's about time for us to go. We'll be counting on you tomorrow, Captain. Sure, leave it to me. I've heard all about what you guys have gone through. I also watched the talk shows at the time and was disgusted by the people who stirred up that incident just for fun. I'll help any way I can. Thank you very much. And we'll see you noon tomorrow. Here. The fare for the boat. NJ took a wrapped wad of 10,000 yen bills from her pocket. The boat captain should have noticed its thickness as well, but he paid it absolutely no interest and shook his head. I'm grateful to you. This is a sign from the heavens. I've been given a final chance to take you to Rokkenjima and bring you back safely. Now I'll finally be able to finish the final job Kinzo-san entrusted me with. So I'm grateful to you. I got more than enough money from Kinzo-san back then. I can't accept yours. Thank you very much. Watch your step on the stairs. It's steep. I went down the steep staircase that was the exact opposite of accessible. It was getting hard to believe that there was actually a chest of drawers and a TV in the room upstairs. Most of the first floor was a bedding store with many futons piled up on each other. We weaved our way through the cramped futon shop. After cautiously checking around outside, Amakusa dashed out first and started up the car. My grandchild's room is empty. I really wouldn't mind if you stayed here. As you see, we've got plenty of extra futons. Thanks a lot for the offer. But this way, even if the unexpected happens, you won't be bothered. I don't know the details, but it seems you've been caught up in a lot of trouble. There's a rumor that some suspicious people are searching for someone. But that wouldn't happen to be you, would it? Who knows? NJ played dumb, but it looked as though the boat captain had guessed. My job is to take guests to Rokkenjima and bring them back again. That job was put on hold 12 years ago, and it still hasn't ended. So, thanks to you, I'll finally be able to finish it. So listen, let me finish this job, okay? Do you understand me? Yeah, it's not like I'm going there to die. But part of me does feel that if I could die on that island, I'd surely be able to go to where my family is. I finally become aware of it. I might have been planning to die on that island. I might have come all this way heading towards Rokkenjima in search of a place to die. The boat captain had guessed that as well. That's why he repeatedly told me not to die. Yeah, I won't die. I promise. After all, I'm still not sure if there's any reason why I need to go to Rokkenjima. No, I'm sure there's a reason. Even if there isn't one for you, there is one for them. The island called you. That's why you came here. That might be true. I might have been called. I was called. For what reason? For them. Father, mother, Battler Oni-chan, and Maria One-chan. Or maybe the Golden Witch. Beatrice. What is on Rokkenjima? And what will I achieve? Even though tomorrow is finally almost here, I still haven't been able to understand my own mission. There was the sound of a car stopping in front of the store, and a short honk could be heard. And I'll see you tomorrow, if you'll excuse me. Yep. Winding between the stacks of futons in the cramped store, I was about to go outside. Then my feet stopped. What is it? What is that? That? What? What are you talking about? Trembling all over, I pointed at it. But no matter how much the boat captain squinted, he noticed absolutely nothing in that direction that should have surprised me. That must mean... Impossible. Why? Are you... NJ, what does it mean? What's going on here? I don't have a clue either. There's no way something that ridiculous. Is this magic? A miracle? Yes, this is probably fate. Now I understand. This was my mission. Are you... I don't have a clue what... Shaking, I pointed into thin darkness inside the store and froze up. What is it? You see something there, don't you? I don't see anything. What is it you see? Thank you, Captain. Everything was fate. Even me visiting this place was fate. This is the mission and the purpose that I'm going to Rokkenjima for. NJ-san? What is it? Something wrong? I don't have a clue either. This girl just froze up while pointing into the darkness. NJ-san? Are you okay? What can you see? Can't you two see it? It's that right there. Can't you see it? All I can see is a normal display case. There's no one there, right? NJ, I don't know what's going on. Is this a dream? Magic? What is it? NJ? Sakutaro lifted his face towards NJ. From his eyes slid a single tear. NJ-sama. I understand, One-chan. And Beatrice. Ryu. This is magic, isn't it? I don't know what she saw. How do I not remember that scene at all? What the heck? A test? Yes. Listen well. Once again, there was a call from Kraus to the guest house, and the message was that Kinzo wanted to hold a test to see if the grandchildren had the qualifications to become his successor. The head has said that his successors will not be one of us siblings, that he wants to pick from among his grandchildren. From Kraus's restrained style of speech, Jessica realized, as his daughter, that he was being forced to speak, and she was forced to realize that the hostages were being exposed to danger even now, and that if they refused this test, there was a possibility that the hostages would be harmed. Then, what should we do? Indeed. Hold on. Kraus put down the receiver, then looked at the grinning Kinzo on the other side of the bars. Kinzo gave his next order. Before the test, those not involved must be removed. Goda and Kumasawa are there, I believe. It will be a problem if they interfere with the test. Banish them from the guest house. Banish, you say? There should be a gardening storehouse in the Rose Garden. Lock Goda and Kumasawa in there. We'll begin from there. Tell them to do it immediately. My weapons will be watching. If they happen to do anything questionable, I'll instantly stop the test and execute all of you as sacrifices. I understand. Hello, Jessica. Listen closely to what I say. Kraus relayed the orders to lock up Goda and Kumasawa. What kind of test are you planning? It truly is a simple test. I only want my grandchildren to show me their resolve. Well then, I wonder what kind of results they'll show me. Looking disgusted, Kirei watched Kraus, who was talking with the children. I hate it, but for now we cannot refuse orders. In this dungeon, a feeble resistance won't amount to anything. If we provoke him too much and drive him into a position where he might kill us, there will no longer be any way to stop this murderer. For now, the only choice left is to obey his rules without agitating him, all the while waiting for an opportunity. However, if we continue to obediently follow his commands, the children might be attacked in this so-called test, and they might even lose their lives. Whether we feign obedience or try to resist, nothing will cause the situation to improve. Anyway, straining our eyes so that we don't let a single chance escape until the very end is the only resistance possible now. While telling herself this, Kirei watched over Kraus as he delivered Kinzo's orders. Kirei-san, let us be patient. I understand. It's unfortunate, but all we can do right now is wait. If only we could do something about these bars, we'd be able to return to the mansion. If only we could somehow get out of here. I'll try something. Kinzo-san, I have a request. What is it, my friend? We understand well that you want to test the children. It is fine for you to do so as you desire. Without your power, the Shiramiya family might have been destroyed long ago. We truly understand why you want to carefully select the person who will take charge. Besides, that is what the family conference is all about. We won't get in your way. Your insight is useful. That's right, this is the family conference. The final family conference, where I will select my successor. And yet, Kinzo-san, it is far too cold here. Since we won't interfere with your test, couldn't you take us to a slightly warmer place? At Nanjo's words, the slight signs that Kinzo's mood had been improving were blown away. Nanjo was struck with a moment of silence as Kinzo gazed at him with dangerous eyes, as though appraising him. Certainly this place is cold. It's tough on an old body. Master, wouldn't it be alright if we moved them upstairs? I cannot do that. Are you naive, Nanjo? So by acting as though you'll skip this turn, you truly and splendidly advance your strategy? I'm not falling for that, you see. If you're freezing, then why don't I line the floor with red-hot coals? My apologies. Virgilia had tried to help out, but in the end, Kinzo would not comply. Too sure obedient. If you felt like it, you could easily break these bars. Even if we break them, nothing will come of it. Of course. If you were to break these, it would mean the end of Goldsmith's game. All of you, as well as all these humans in the guest house, would immediately become sacrifices for Kinzo's ceremony. But, surprisingly, you two might be the only ones, yes? Perhaps only you two hold the power to break out of this situation, right? You want to reach the Gold Land, don't you? You must have many dreams you want granted, right? Cap, you mustn't provoke them. This is not your game. It is the Master's as well as Milady's game. What is it, Ronove? Oh no, nothing. We were talking to the prisoners. Forgive us. Cap sent one final sneering smile at Cannon, then turned away. Cannon could only bite his lower lip and shake his fists. Damn it. You did well. Good job hanging in there. We're powerless, because we're furniture. That's right, we're powerless. However, furniture is sometimes relied upon and even loved. Right now, we've only been stored away in the basement. Surely one day someone will love us, because they'll rely on us. That's why for now let's ignore their provocation and bear with it, okay? Father, I've ordered them to lock up Goda and Kumasawa in the storehouse. Very well, hang up now. Chester sisters, observe the grandchildren as they lock Goda and Kumasawa away. If they do anything suspicious, then in that moment, the selection test for my successors will be over. When Kinzo made his order, the Chester sisters appeared behind him in a line. Understood, sir. I will scout. 556 and 410 will cover both flanks. 45, you're on wide area surveillance. 00. 556 is... Ah, that's right. Sorry. Just a good kid. That's why I don't like them, yeah. Good people. What are you doing, Chester sisters? Follow my orders. My apologies, sir. Then let us go observe. Move out. The Chester sisters erased their forms simultaneously. Nanjo and Kira had witnessed the instance they appeared and disappeared as if by teleportation, but they interpreted this as moving in and out of the darkness in a way that only looked like teleportation, and the two could do nothing but rub their eyes. Well then, I shall begin the preparations for the test. Ronove, Gap, I'm asking you to be the examiners. Virgilia, you'll watch these rats. After all, 2 of my furniture are here. Just in case, be on your guard. He glanced at Shannon and Cannon. Tightly closing her eyes, Shannon gave a silent bow and answered wordlessly, avoiding any unnecessary actions. Certainly. I'll be very careful. Isn't this cold hard on your old body, Leah? Should I bring you a hot water bottle? Shut up. Go quickly. Gap. Well now, what a strange experience this game is to have a test and examiners. I do hope this development entertains Milady. Come, arise, good attendants. Virgilia began to call out into the darkness, and from that spot 3 massive goat-headed attendants suddenly appeared. Ah, Beto's minions. How convenient. Plus they seem so warm. I see, so you use them instead of a hot water bottle. In that case, wouldn't sheep have been better than goats? You're the one wearing cashmere. They aren't very bright, but they faithfully follow orders and are quite dependable. Indeed, I leave it to you, my friend Virgilia. The rest of you follow me. With a dignified gesture, Kinzo fluttered his cloak. Following him are Ronove and Gap, as well as the 3 recently summoned goat attendants. Hey, you 3 are supposed to wait here with me. Don't follow them. The goats jumped in surprise and then came tottering back. Kira, who had been watching stunned as all of this played out, couldn't help but snort. What entertaining underlings. Lord Goldsmith did not give you permission to speak. She was probably embarrassed. Virgilia had spoken coolly, but Kiri saw through that, and for a little while she couldn't restrain her muffled laughter. However, on the inside, Kiri was surprised at the number of people that Kinzo had with him. After all, including Kinzo himself, at least 10 enemies had already been spotted. The dungeon they were currently locked in was supposedly underneath the hidden mansion called Kuadorian. Although this mansion had been whispered of, not even Kraus had known of its existence until today. Are there actually several facilities like this on Rokkenjima where many unknown henchmen that only Kinzo know of hide? Just how many humans are on Rokkenjima locked away by the typhoon? No, on the contrary. Were we the only ones under the impression that there were only 18 people on this island? Were we who bickered over whether Beatrice existed or not, or worried about whether a 19th person existed or not, nothing more than the frogs Noel on this island? No, wait. Not only that. By now, are there actually more people on the enemy's side than on ours? Just what the hell is going on? Witches? Demons? Magic? Are you telling us to believe in those? Are my eyes screwed up, or is it my head? I think I'm losing it. A mass murder by magic. Demons forming and disappearing into thin air. Setting aside the enemy's numbers, how should we interpret the various things thrust before our eyes that cannot be explained with the common sense of our world? Kira started to feel like she didn't know what was going on anymore, and while desperately battling the urge to abandon everything and give up, she grit her teeth and tried to hold on to her sanity. Obviously, Goda and Kumasawa were quite unwilling to be locked in the Rose Garden shed, but they were threatened that if they resisted, the hostages' safety could not be guaranteed. It was fairly hard to get them to agree, but once they started thinking that their safety might actually be guaranteed if the key to the gardening storehouse was to be handed to them after being shut inside, and when it was decided that blankets and food would be carried in for them, they were finally convinced. This place is pretty chilly. I wonder how long we'll have to stay locked in here. It could be as late as Monday morning at the worst, so a full day and night. I really feel bad about doing this to you two. George and Ballard cleared a space on the floor, then spread the blankets there. They also left the canned food, crackers, and other light snacks they had brought. It'll be hard for you guys to go until Monday with just this. If only we could make a trip to the kitchen. They said not to go anywhere we weren't told to. Sounds like we're being watched. Damn. I am honestly sorry that we cannot be of any use, and these are the times that we truly are supposed to be at your sides. It can't be helped. More importantly, take care of Kumasawa-san. We don't know what might happen. If the going gets tough, I'd like you to play it by ear and come to the rescue. And more than anything, I want you to be safe. Yes, I understand. Please be careful, everyone. Right now, the Master is taking human lives like they're pieces on a chessboard. Please look out for yourselves. Goda stared at the floor, even now unable to believe what had happened as he remembered that atrocity in the dining hall, and he hung his head in shame at his failure to fully describe that terror. Thank you. Make sure you stay on your guard. You too, Kumasawa-san. And you all please take care as well. I don't have any idea what's going on anymore. Well then, we'll be off. Let's go, Ballard-kun, Jessica-chan. Come on, you too, Maria-chan. Looking at the pitiful expressions on the imprisoned pair's faces, it got really hard to close the shutter. But we can't disobey. We're being watched. The shutter was brought down and locked. Then George walked towards a small window on the side of the storehouse. At that side, there was a small latticed window that could only admit light and ventilation. It looked like something from a jail, making the two of them seem even more pitiable. But on the other hand, it would hopefully protect them from Kinzo and his subordinates. He opened the window and called out. Are you okay? You aren't cold, are you? We're okay. You've given us so many blankets after all. If we wrap ourselves up, we'll be just fine. I wish we could have brought them a kerosene stove or something. But it wouldn't have ventilation here. It'll probably be tough for them, but there's nothing we can do now. Hostages are being held against us. We can't disobey. Damn it. If we manage to save Kira and the rest somehow. Shh. They might be listening. Goda-san, here. It's the key to the shutter. Indeed. I'll hold on to it. Goto took the key, showed it to Kumasawa, and placed it in his own pocket. There's only one key to the gardening shed's shutter. That key was being held by the ones locked up inside it. If the children had kept it and had it stolen from them by some chance, that would do nothing but expose the lives of those in the shed to danger. And even with the key, the shutter could not be opened from the inside. Kinzo's demands were fulfilled this way. However, there was now no longer any way to open the shed from the outside either. This protected them. Kinzo had ordered that they be confined, and we could do nothing but trust that this cold, closed room would protect them. Jessica watched this while holding Maria's hand, then looked over the thickets in the pitch-black rose garden. Somewhere in this darkness, somebody was hiding, watching to see whether we obeyed orders or not. Of course, when we pointed our flashlights out there, no suspicious silhouettes appeared, but somebody was surely out there, hiding and watching. I was hit many times with an urge to scream at them, but I was able to hold that urge back through reason. The 4 children left the area, repeatedly looking back over their shoulders. The light from the faint light bulb in the gardening storehouse was seeping out slightly. I wonder if this insane incident will come to an end somehow, so that we can meet those 2 again. To George, who had closed the shutter himself, the resistance of the lock had made it feel as though he'd killed him with his own hands. But even so, we can't defy them. What's with this test? Damn geezer, don't screw with us. Killing Mom, capturing Dad for that? I don't get it. I'll kill him. It's okay, Jessica One-chan. There's nothing to be sad about. Maria. Soon the witch will be revived. Soon we'll be able to meet in the Golden Land. Ouch! Don't laugh indiscreetly like that. Seriously, a resurrection ceremony for a witch? Getting so many people involved in delusions he should have just kept inside his head. What's gonna cost you, bastard? Let's return to the guest house. It'll be bad if we aren't here when Grandfather calls. Urged on by George, everyone began walking towards the guest house. At that moment, Jessica turned in a circle, facing towards the darkness of the rose garden, and roared. Hey! Someone's watching, right? Tell the old man. Tell him I'm gonna fucking kill him! Let's go! Of course, there was no reply, only the howl of the wind and rain. The children returned to the guest house, while fearing what was waiting for them up ahead. After they left, from the exact point in the darkness that Jessica had yelled at, 2 rabbit ears sprung up. Sorry. They found me out. It's because you're too slow, Nyet. Pendragon-sama's gonna scold you. I'm sorry. Please don't tell Pendragon-sama. Be quiet. It was obviously just a bluff. Goto and Kumasawa's imprisonment confirmed. Mission complete. We'll report back. Yay. Ouch. You want us all stuck on nothing but carrots and water because of collective responsibility? Let's go. The fact that they were being watched certainly seemed to be true, because when they returned to the cousin's room, turned the lights on, and laid down on their beds, the phone rang again. Earlier, Jessica had been answering the phone, seeing as this was her house, but now it was the eldest, George, who picked it up. This time, Kirie-san was on the other end of the line. George handed it to Battler out of consideration. Hello? Kirie-san? Is everything alright over there? Thanks for worrying. At the moment, we're all doing great here. Sorry, I've been ordered to refrain from idle chatter. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The fact that they were hostages still hadn't changed. Kinzo, or one of his subordinates, was listening to the conversation. Battler restrained the urge to talk about other things and focused on what Kirie had to say. The test will be carried out by Jessica-chan, George-kun, Battler-kun, and Maria-chan in that order. You'll each be summoned in turn, so until then, do not leave the room. When someone's called, they'll head out to their designated location, alone. Battler repeated it out loud so that the cousins listening in around him could hear. So it'll be Jessica, Aniki, me, and Maria in that order, and we've got to stay in the room till we're called, right? Got it. Maria too? Even a 9-year-old girl? What's the damn geezer trying to force us to do, that bastard? The fate of the Ushiramiya family rests in all of your hands. Do your best. Sure. Battler noticed the strange nuance in Kirie's words. Even without any blood connection, he could still understand thanks to the long-lasting bond they shared. At this point, it doesn't make sense to worry about the Ushiramiya's family itself. That probably wasn't the message Kirie wanted to send. She probably meant, there's no way for us to escape from this dungeon, and we can only wait to be rescued. Our lives are in your hands. Something like that. Yeah, leave it to me. We don't know what kind of test it is, but no problem. I'll take it gladly. It's gonna be a serious test, right? Should we really go all out? Yes, it's a serious test. Grandfather truly does intend to test you all. It's useless. It's all useless. Some old fart on death's door is gonna give me a serious challenge? Let him spout nonsense after he gets in the coffin. I know he's there, so tell him this for me. I'll be your successor, and my first action will be to shove my fist in your face. Even without Kirie having to repeat it, Battler's powerful declaration of war reached Kinzo's ears. Battler, I am truly looking forward to that. I can't wait to see what a man who once threw away the Ushiramiya name has attained. Just what lot in life he's reached when he appears before me. Tell him. Unfortunately, Kinzo's voice was not picked up by the receiver. Therefore, Kirie spoke for him. It sounds like he's more than up for the challenge. Got that, Battler-kun? There's no need to hold back. You are Rudolph's son. No, you are my son. Show me something I can brag about to anyone. I leave everything in your hands. Understood, Mom. Leave the rest to me. All of us here have lost the right to inherit the position of successor. Now we're just the same as pieces taken off the game board looking on from the outside. So you'll have to fight by yourselves. Kirie-san. The nuance of those words meant, we've already given up, so forget about us. But for that very reason, I won't give up. I'll definitely crush this test or whatever and save everyone. In that case, here are his instructions for the first test, Jessica-chan's. Go to your room. To really? Go to your room? What's your game, you damn geezer? It seems he means Jessica-chan's personal room, the one in the mansion. I'll hand it over to Jessica. Tell her directly for me. Jessica, here. Hello? Yes, I understand. Starting with me, huh? Well, I've been ready. See you later. Even Jessica was probably tempted to succumb to the fear of a girl her age, but she crushed those feelings and strengthened her resolve. Be careful, okay? We're probably being watched, right? We can't do anything we aren't told. All we can do is exactly what they say. They say that old geezer killed the 6 in the dining hall instantly with no hesitation. So if we try to fight back, we might end up the same way. I know. I'll beat them at their own game. Don't do anything reckless. If you think you're in any danger, your own safety comes first. If Uncle Kraus finds out his daughter sacrificed herself for him, there's no doubt it'll tear his heart apart. It goes the other way, too. If Mom and Dad are both killed and I'm the only one left, my heart will rip itself to pieces. Battler-kun? What you said earlier is true, right? Yeah. Kirie-san and the others are already prepared for what will happen. Then, the way things are now is just perfect. Everyone's lives rest on our shoulders. The hostages can't do anything while they're locked up. That means we'll have to manage something ourselves. If something happens, run back to the guest house. At that time, we'll be done playing along with Grandfather's game. Aniki. At that time, we'll declare war. Wherever they're locked up, we'll save them, and we'll deal with Grandfather accordingly. Are you sure, Aniki? Shannon-chan's there too. That's why I'm saying it. I'm not sitting around and waiting for my fiancé to be killed. What scares me is not that Shannon might be killed by Grandfather. I'm just worried you guys will get there first and clobber the damn geezer who made my fiancé experience terror before I do. I see. This really does sound like a test to see who'll be the successor. Yeah? The first one to bury a fist into that old face will be the next head. George, Battler, and Jessica each forcefully nodded their heads and put their fists together. Then Jessica headed off to her own room as designated. Her form disappeared into the darkness of the rose garden, waving in the strong winds. Watching her go, George and Battler gripped their fists even tighter, making them quiver. Left on the second floor, Maria watched Jessica's back through the window. She wore a blank expression. I wonder what everyone's getting so upset about. Even though when Beatrice is revived, everyone will be brought back to life. Jessica's form was already being completely swallowed up by the darkness. At that time, the phone began to ring again. Battler and George heard it and came clamoring back, but Maria picked up the receiver right away. Hello? Is that Maria-sama? It's me, Shannon. Would you please hand the phone over to George-sama? This time it was Shannon on the phone, and this time the message was to tell the next person, George, where he was to go. Of course, since the time of her birth, Jessica had been raised in this mansion. The atrophied Western-style house that the cousins called a mansion was her home. And yet, she had never understood her cousin's feelings as much as she did today. At the same time, she had never felt her own home, which she knew well to be as alien as it seemed now. Her own room. This had once been her hideaway, the only place in this vast mansion where she could feel at peace. However, she had never felt as much pressure coming from that door as she did now. A test, you say? What the hell could be waiting in there? I'm not gonna find my desk and stuff dragged all around the place, right? She acted tough, trying to deceive herself, trying to make herself believe that she wasn't scared of anything. Readying herself, she opened the door to her room. When she saw that fortunately the room didn't appear to be messed up, she relaxed. No one was there. Of course. There was nowhere for anyone to hide here. Right away, Jessica locked the door behind her. This way the room was safe. She peeked under the bed and in the closet, but of course no one was hiding. What the hell? She looked at the clock. It was just past 23:10. As her tension lessened and fatigue came back to her entire body, she realized how messed up this whole day had been. It was still about 2300. The plan had been for all the cousins to gather, have fun playing around, and talk animatedly about various things together into the night. Normally we would have been doing that kind of thing right now. Why has that turned into this? It's all that damn geezer's fault. How could he do that to Mom? To everyone? She shook her head back and forth with anger and sadness. But there was no one here to direct those emotions at. Because of the lock, this room's security was guaranteed. Remembering that one more time, Jessica somehow regained her calm. If it keeps up like this and nothing happens, I want to go to the dining hall and see Mom's dead face. Even though Goda emphasized so strongly that it was gruesome and that I definitely shouldn't go to look at it, even so, I wanted to see her face at the end. But we were warned repeatedly that stepping out of line even a little would put the hostages in danger. Could it be that locking the door was also against the rules? If I close myself up in here, I alone might be saved. But if I don't open it, it'll surely be against the rules, and Dad, Kanon-kun, Shannon, Aunt Kiri, and Dr. Nanja will be killed. There's no way the scales will balance out between 5 lives and my own 1 life. Jessica tightly shut her eyes, resisting the other part of herself that said, "Isn't it okay as long as I stay alive?" Faced the door and made to unlock it at that time. A crisp applause rang out, making Jessica's heart leap. If the door had remained locked, it might have been in violation of the rules and harm could have come to the hostages. But despite that, your own life might be saved. However, you resisted that temptation and were about to unlock the door yourself. That bravery of yours is worthy of admiration. Who? If I, as the owner of this room, searched everywhere a human could have been hiding, where did this man come from? There was nowhere for a human to hide, but could something non-human have managed it? This was supposedly my first meeting with this largely built middle-aged man. I didn't recognize this guy who looked like a butler and bore the crest of the one-winged eagle. A pleasure to meet you, Jessica-sama. I serve as head furniture for the master, the 27th of the 72. I am called Ranave. Ranave? Genji-san? Ah yes, Genji is like my little brother, or perhaps he was my true form while in this world. You might even say he was my vessel. What's this guy saying? Oh, my apologies. This is not something a human would be able to understand. Well then, let us move on to the main event. So this is that test or whatever the damn geezer talked about. Correct. This is the test that the master has granted you, Jessica-sama. As Ranave's elegant gesture like that of a butler ordering for a meal to be set out, many gold butterflies flew up out of nowhere. Gah? What the hell? As the cloud of gold butterflies spun around in a small swirl, they gathered in one place. And then that golden mound disappeared like a pile of leaves blown away by a cold wintry wind, and there lay a western envelope with the one-winged eagle crest on it in gold leaf. With a gesture, Ranave urged her to pick it up. Jessica timidly did so, and opened the letter inside. Yes, it's confirmed. Ranave is somewhat the same person as Genji. And could this apply to other characters as well? What an interesting thing to think about. What's this? It is an exceedingly simple test to determine whether one is qualified to become the successor. Please attend to the question written there with a fitting attitude for the successor who is to support the Ushirimiya family, and tell me your answer, as well as the thoughts that led you to it. Dumbass? Shaking, Jessica looked between the paper and Ranave's face several times. At that time, George, who had been called out after Jessica, could be seen in the arbor of the rose garden. If things had gone normally, he had planned to give Shannon the ring that would have been proof of their engagement here, at this time, on this day. But the woman in front of George now was not Shannon. Read it. That is Goldsmith's test for you. George picked up the western envelope which was on the table where he'd once had tea with Shannon, and read its contents. Perhaps its message was short. After glancing at it, George's eyes grew sharp. What's this supposed to be? It is as you see. This is the test given to you to see if you're qualified to be the successor. As you ask yourself whether you truly are so qualified, answer that question. What a stupid question. That's right. It really is a stupid question. Doesn't that mean that Ushirimiya family inheritance is also something on that level in Goldsmith's eyes? George lowered his eyes to the surface of the letter once again, examining its contents. George and Jessica. While the tests given to them were slightly different, they were almost exactly the same. Among the three mentioned below, in order to gain 2, sacrifice 1. It's a simple 3 choices. Decide for yourself which one you will choose to abandon. If you refuse to choose, the test will be suspended. I've been given permission to kill you right here by my own hands. If you want to include even that as a choice, then there are 4 options. It's been an awful long time since I've gotten to play with a kid like you, so I can't say I'd be disappointed. Are these 3 choices only a test? Or will the consequence of my choice be carried out? Don't be so naive. The one you choose will definitely lose their life. Among the 3 mentioned below, in order to gain 2, sacrifice 1. 1, your life. 2, Shannon's life. 3, everyone else's lives. If you do not choose one, all of the above will be lost. Why is Shannon's name here? The second choice has the name of the one most needed and most loved by the test taker. I believe Ken's name is written second on Jessica's test. You gave this stupid question to Jessica too? You shouldn't be worrying about Jessica, right? Right now, you are the one being tested. It really is a simple 3-choice test. Which can you throw away for the sake of the other 2? Isn't that simple? If you still can't decide, would you like me to lend you a coin? A coin? How would you choose between 3 options with something that only has 2 sides? No one would throw away their own life. So there remain 2 choices that will leave you standing. Will you give up on everyone for the sake of the one you love? Or will you give up on the one person you love so you can save as many people as possible? Either way, you should be able to find a fitting just cause. After all, this Rokkenjima is now a demon island. The sentimental relationships of the human world aren't necessary here. No one will blame you. Do as your heart desires, and ask yourself whether you're qualified to succeed the Ushiromiya family headship. Or rather, make your decision as if you truly were the Ushiromiya family head, okay? Writing in Goldsmith. That's right, Sir Terrier. Or is it the secret? Is it the truth a secret 3rd thing? 4th thing? Fuck you guys mocking me like this. Jessica crumpled the letter up and threw it on the floor. I believe your anger is quite appropriate. I also find it an exceedingly pitiful, and yet truly humorous question. How could anyone wish to die themselves? And how could anyone want to remain alive after abandoning the life of the one they love? And how could anyone massacre everyone else as long as it's good for the 2 of them? No, Jessica-sama. Such a person could exist. This is Rokkenjima, the demon island. It is now completely cut off from the human world and fully immersed in the spirit world like cheese fondue. Values of the human world get taken out with the trash. So please, rank the things you desire from the bottom of your heart. Whatever remains will become a fitting answer for you in this insane evening. Don't fuck with me. How could I choose any of these? If you do not choose one, all of the above will be lost. Also makes for a fine 4th option. Even choosing that should give us an amusing show. But since that choice will result in the loss of your own life in the end, I believe it would be more wise to be pure and choose the first one, your life, so that the other 2 will be saved. Everything has been entrusted to your decision, Jessica-sama. Please let me hear an answer and conviction fitting for the successor to the Ushiromiya family headship. I, Ronove, am sincerely hoping for a wonderful answer, fitting for the master's descendant who shares his blood. Damn it! That scene was observed through the magic crystal ball Ginzo held. Ginzo finally couldn't hold it back and, spreading his arms and facing the heavens, began laughing in an explosive voice. What are you wavering for, foolish grandchildren, my descendants? Isn't this problem so easy that you could answer right away? Isn't this a question that should cause you to waver less than whether to put butter or jam on your morning toast? Do you people know the correct answer? He turned to face the Chester sisters who had been waiting on him. No, my apologies, I don't know, Lord Goldsmith. Fool, not choosing at all means game over. You foolish rabbit who cannot even choose a reason or a goal for your own life. You aren't worth a single ant that anyone might step upon without even noticing. Die, be crushed, disappear faster than I can blink. And what of you? I would sacrifice the first one, your own life, sir. Weapons fight and die in battle, and weapons exist to destroy enemies and protect allies. Being able to protect those we love and then die is our satisfaction, sir. Oh, a truly splendid model answer for a weapon. The immediate reply is very nice. So have you been raised to think you'll be given an extra carrot for answering that way? That's wrong, see? Even that is wrong, see? Answering that when you are asked is not nothing more than giving the answer that you have been indoctrinated with. You are the same as that other rabbit a second ago. You still live without having chosen a purpose or goal to strive for. You filth that doesn't deserve to live. It would suit you well to be crushed and used as fodder for the other livestock. Yes, sir. Animal fodder would be an honor. That's wrong, right? You don't want to see anyone else die anymore, right? Why can't you accept that? Except that the depths of your old wound are still festering and rotting. Yes, the rotting stench would make the nose wrinkle, you foolish, rotten rabbit. Those are words of praise for you. Thank you very much, sir. Well then, what about you, the last one? Which of the 3 choices would you choose? Without wavering, I chose the second one. Oh? The second. There are not many who could stick their chest out and choose to offer the one they love as a sacrifice. Tell me your reason. Because the one you love will be lost eventually. If you don't love anyone, you won't get hurt. And if you lose someone, you still might be able to love again. So, the person you love right now isn't worth that much at all, yeah? I see, so that is why you reached such an answer, you rabbit who has become cowardly from pain caused by love. I have heard that rabbits can die from loneliness, but just when it was it that your heart was killed? Then, rabbit, I shall alter the question. Why don't I change the second option to not the one you love, but the memories of the one you loved? How is that? Can you still select that one? What's this about the one you love not being worth much at all, foolish rabbit? Filth who cannot even face up to the depths of her own love. Try and choose it. Try and choose to have the one you loved forgotten. You can do it, right? I'll bet you can, right? Come on, try saying that you can, okay? Yes, I can choose it. I can choose it. Lord Goldsmith, please, stop this. Enough, rabbit filth. Go to Virgilia and help keep watch on the dungeon. Disappear. The Chester sisters, with their respective old wounds of the heart gouged out, escaped by disappearing. After that, even though there was no one to hear, Ginzo continued talking by himself as though in a play. Indeed, that is the nature of this charming test. In truth, no choice can be said to be correct. Instead, regardless of which answer they choose, it is about whether they can choose without hesitation, quickly, and with a resolute conviction in their own strong, unshakable will. It is their reason and their willpower that are the most essential. That is what I want to learn. Yes, my descendants, I am truly looking forward to what kind of answer you will show me. Me? Yes, of course, I once had the same question thrust upon me. Because I splendidly answered that devil's question, I was able to obtain golden honor and that which is my possession. Which answer did I choose? Do you really need me to say it out loud? Well then, have you nearly decided on your answer? As Jessica stared at the letter that had been crushed and lay on the floor, she hung her head in constant silence. All that filled the room was the stir from the wind and rain shaking the treetops. Regardless of how noisy that was, it actually made the stillness more apparent. Renove waited for Jessica's answer. However, Jessica didn't answer. Whether she was lost in deep thought or had stopped thinking, Renove couldn't tell. No, he might actually have known. But cruelly, like a demon, Renove urged Jessica to voice it. If you cannot choose any, I can at least bring you peace without pain, but... Me. Yes? I had trouble hearing. Could you say it again, please? Jessica lifted her face and looked straight into Renove's eyes. It seemed that she had decided on her answer. Kill me. Jessica said it one more time, clearly. Perhaps Renove had imagined that this would be her answer from the very beginning. Without any surprise, he smiled lightly and nodded. I thought that you would choose that answer, Jessica-sama. Well then, there's no right or wrong answer to this test. The essential part is what thoughts led you to that answer. Come now, please answer with a fitting attitude for the successor. It's not like I chose the first one because I want to die. The second one was letting Kanon-kun die. Of course, that was out of the question, so I excluded it. The third one was everyone else's lives. Of course, that was also out of the question, so I excluded it. After that, only the first choice remained. Process of elimination, is it? So it was not something you chose proactively. After chuckling slightly, Renove dropped his gaze. A human couldn't even imagine what answer a demon would have been expecting. All she could understand was this was slightly below Renove's expectations. The answer is neither bad nor good. 60%, I believe you could call it. I'm a little disappointed. You're a pretty selfish bastard telling me to answer with self-confidence and then being disappointed when I do. Apparently there was more to it than process of elimination. It's a failing grade either way, but there seems to be a little more to your thoughts. Allow me to ask. People don't want to die, so no one will want to choose the first option. People want to live in happiness and struggle as much as life will let them. So normally the first choice should be impossible from the beginning. However, you took that first choice. You chose to throw away your own life. Only that choice remained for you. I tried thinking of the future that would come after choosing each one. Oh? And what did you see? First, I tried letting Kanan-kun die. I tried to imagine the rest of my life after having abandoned the one I love. What kind of life was it? It was a horrible woman who didn't deserve to live. A shabby woman who always lamented her own decision and lived only to regret. I could never forgive a horrible woman who'd choose to live and abandon the person she loved. I put an end to her myself. How brave. So did you also consider the third option? Yeah. I tried letting everyone but me and Kanan-kun die. There's no way Kanan-kun would like me if I did that. So again, even with Kanan-kun, I was forced to bear the cross of abandoning so many people. And even Kanan-kun was forced to bear it. I'm not going to make a foolish choice that leaves Kanan-kun bearing that cross. I wouldn't be able to forgive a future me who did something like that. I put an end to that woman myself, too. Jessica had pictured it in her mind. The future her beyond each of these three choices. There were 3 Jessicas. Of the 3, 2 had regrets. Only one could hold her head high and smile at Kanan. You know, I once had the nerve to preach something to Kanan-kun. Something about trying to live life to the fullest. Live your life to the fullest. Meaningful words, and a surprisingly difficult thing to do. So yeah, I've got to stand proud and show Kanan-kun. Show him how to live by holding your head high and looking straight at the sun with a full smile. Will Kanan be able to accept your self-sacrifice? Haven't you thought that your selfish actions might hurt him more than is necessary? That's why I want to leave a message. Oh? I will listen, but I'm after all a demon. I may not keep my promises, you see. Keep it. Your promise. Jessica spoke without looking quite unconcerned. She had asked the demon who was about to take her life to pass on a message, and she didn't think at all that she would be betrayed. That extremely innocent smile, Ronove closed his eyes lightly and shrugged his shoulders. I see nothing wrong with that. So, what shall I tell him? Tell Kanan-kun to live his life to the fullest. No, that's not quite it. Not Kanan-kun. He still hasn't told me his real name yet. Tell the real Kanan-kun to live his life to the fullest. Tell him that. Milady. Jessica, you really are. One of his fickle, so he might not have passed the message on. You certainly are fortunate to have me here, showing you this scene. A musty 3-sided mirror was set beyond the bars, and the scene with Jessica was reflected on it. On the next mirror, the scene with George was reflected in the same way. None of them questioned how a 3-sided mirror had appeared from a group of butterflies, nor did they wonder why these scenes with Jessica and George were reflected on it. Because the reflected scenes themselves were more important. Are you so prepared to throw your life away? For his sake? My apologies. Crest looked at Kanan with a complicated expression mixed in with a bitter smile. Kanan wouldn't meet his eyes. Virgilia-sama, there's no reason for Milady to throw away her life. Please kill me. Please change it to the second choice. That way everything should resolve itself. I'm not capable of granting that wish. After all, this is Jessica's own decision, which she herself chose. At that time, suddenly the air split and the Chester sisters appear flying into Virgilia's chest. Virgilia-sama! So mean, so mean. Lord Goldsmith is so mean. I'm doing the best I can. Crushing me for an animal fodder, that's just too much. Virgilia, who still didn't have a clue what was going on, was mobbed by the sobbing Chester sisters. There. Everything's alright, don't cry. I'll make you some delicious tea. I'm leaving it up to you all to guard this place. If they do anything suspicious, inform me immediately. The goat attendants all faced each other, nodding their heads. Virgilia took the Chester sisters and left. The sound of them going upstairs could be heard, so they'd probably gone up to an upper floor. This is our chance. It looks like these go-aheads are morons. I wonder if we can trick them. Kira realized that an opportunity had arrived, but even so, she hadn't thought of a way to break the metal bars. The Jessica reflected on the 3-sided mirror had her eyes closed as though in contemplation. The way she had both her hands stuck in her pockets, wanting to be defiant until the very end, might have been her own aesthetic stance. That's all I have to say. Kill me. Understood. Well then, fear not, for I shall make your death more gentle and merciful than any sleep. As Ronafo raised his palm, he slowly approached Jessica. Damn it! Ah. Realizing that his daughter was about to be killed, Kraus went half mad and repeatedly body slammed the metal bars. The goats looked like they were sneering at how a mere human didn't stand a chance at breaking those bars. Kraus's pointless efforts certainly may have been comical, but Kraus was giving it everything he had. He was now living with all that he had at Jessica's father so that he could save her. Kenan had made tight fists with both hands. If he used his cursed power, he might be able to cut through even metal bars. But there were a full 3 goats. There was no way he could defeat 3 of them in an instant. It would instantly be reported, and then even Virgilia and the Chester sisters would probably dash in. Even if he could break the bars, that would be the end of it. It was useless. Kenan already knew that the witch sneered at useless efforts like that, so he could do nothing but stare at Kraus's repeated body slams. George-sama. Shannon, who had been looking at the 3-sided mirror, raised her voice. When they looked, they could see George, who had been silent the whole time, lift his face. It seemed that George had also decided on an answer. Have you decided on your answer? Yeah, I've decided. Is it an unwavering answer? Yeah, it's unwavering. Then let me hear it. Oh, by the way, it seems Jessica decided to take the your life option. Surely such an indecisive person as you isn't going to choose the same answer, right? Jessica gave her own answer. No matter which choice that was, it was Jessica's answer. It doesn't influence my answer in any way. I see. Then let me ask again. Among the 3 mentioned below, in order to gain 2, sacrifice 1. 1, your life. 2, Shannon's life. 3, everyone else's lives. Which one will you choose? Could it be the first one, like Jessica? Wrong. Oh? Gap looked a little surprised, because she had thought this timid-looking man would obviously choose that option. Very well then. I'm glad the most boring option for me has been removed. Then, as crazy as it sounds, could it be the second option? Can you abandon Shannon's life? You must be joking. Why would I do that to the person I was going to give an engagement ring to tonight? How bold. Is that your answer? That's it. My answer is the third option. George took the third option. Everyone else's lives. Unsurprisingly, Gap hadn't imagined that he'd give an answer like that. She had been sure that he'd choose the same one as Jessica, so she was interested in how he had reached that answer. How he had reached an answer that had surpassed the imagination of the 33 ranked of the 72 demons. I want you to tell me. I want you to tell me the circumstances that made it possible for you to sacrifice the lives of everyone else so that you and the fiancé you love would be safe. Did you use the process of elimination like Jessica? Wrong. I clearly have no choice except this one. So you don't care what happens as long as it's good for you? You can sacrifice the world for the woman you love? What are you even talking about? What? George faced the demon as he spoke, almost as though he was disgusted. Tonight, I planned on calling Shannon right here, and giving her this ring as proof of our engagement. There probably are quite a few people who wouldn't have celebrated an engagement between me and Shannon. I was prepared to make enemies of the entire family by announcing my engagement to her. I have been prepared since the time I came to this island. No, that's not it. Since the time I confessed that I wanted to engage her. So you can sacrifice everything else as long as you can get married? Marriage means continuing to be your wife's ally for your whole life. At that point, I was prepared to have the entire world as my enemy for her sake. Those words through the 3-sided mirror also reached Shannon's ears, and that determination reached her eyes. Shannon certainly had promised to be given an engagement ring tonight. Then this incident had occurred and she hadn't been able to receive the ring. But now, even though it wasn't in the form of a ring, Shannon had received something even greater. And as proof of that, a single tear with the same sparkle as a diamond dripped down. What a worry, just answer. I see, if I really think about it, this was an easy decision for you. After all, your parents were already killed on the first twilight, right? By now there's no one whose death would trouble you. I see. Truly an easy choice. Say whatever you want. This determination and choice are mine as well, and mine as the successor. The sparkle in George's eyes were brilliantly sharp. For just an instant, Gap felt the same sense of threat as Kinzo's and was slightly overwhelmed. I see. Yes, the same decision as Goldsmith. So even with your innocent face, you will also become a terrible demon in the future. What do you know, we might get along pretty well. You will succeed, Goldsmith. Eventually, I may even be summoned and serve you. That could be surprisingly interesting. Gap had needed to change her opinion of George. This man bore a determination and resolve unimaginable from his outward appearance. Not just now, but since the very beginning. I am prepared to inherit the headship right away. No, that's not it. You told me to think as the head in this test, so I answered based on the premise that I am the head. No, even that's not it. I thought as the head himself. I am now the head of the Ushiromiya family. Splendid. To think that you'd be able to go so far. It seems you truly are one to be reckoned with. Balor's and Maria's tests remain, but I have a good feeling that you'll pass. But only if that is your true, unexaggerated answer, you see? Do you doubt my resolve? Can you carry out the option you chose? Can you right now, with your own hands, offer all of the lives that exist on this island as sacrifices? By your own hand? I can. I've said I was prepared to do so several times. Ha! Then return to the guest house right away and kill Balor and Maria. When that's done, I'll bring you the other hostages. Execute each of them except Shannon before her eyes. You can do it, right? I can. My resolve is on a whole different level from yours. Then carry it out. Death for them all. Complete this bloodstained ceremony as the new Ushiromiya family head. Understood. I'll carry it out. I'm already the Ushiromiya family head. Yes, that's right. Stain that throne red by your own hands. You will become the king of the spirit world who controls the demons. Gap was convinced. This man truly was fitting to succeed Kinzo's badness. Blow wind, cry thunder. Celebrate the birth of the new demon king. The demon island has now welcomed its new lord. In response to the demon's call, a tempest raged more and more. Then a massive lightning bolt fell, its tearing thunder and brilliant light giving the sensation of a moment of silence. So, about the order of the murders. I get to choose that, right? Please, as you wish, your majesty, the new demon king of Rokanjima, as your heart desires. Well then, to start, that means the first one's gonna be you. Got a problem with that? Huh? A gust of wind blew, stirring up George's jacket as if it were a cloak. It was very much like the cloak worn by the head. It definitely carried that impression of dignity. At that time, Gap truly did see the storm wiped away, and the sky covered with a pure white and vast full moon. The man who called himself the new head bore the full moon on his back and sneered at the demon. Even the lives of the entire Ushiromiya family are now part of my fortune. Reparations will be made for the damage that's been done, and it won't come cheap. You didn't seriously think you could take my parents, Aunt Natsuhi, Uncle Rudolph, Aunt Rosa, and Genji-san's lives and expect me to overlook it, right? Oh, impertinence! Renove was trying to press his palm against Jessica's chest and stop her heart, but right before he could, his hand stopped. On the carpet at their feet, 2 small red flowers bloomed with a plop. The seed of those flowers was way up high, piercing into the heavens, on Jessica's fist. Renove's nose was stained red with spewing blood, and those drops had been dripping onto the carpet. By the way, that just now was my answer as a maiden. My answer is the successor is different. Allow me to ask. The person I love, my family and my relatives, everyone, I'll protect them. If I'm the head, then that's my duty. Dad wasn't just swaggering around. He protected me and Mom. He fought the pressure of succeeding the Urshiramiya family for decades. That's why I know. Being the successor is nothing trivial. So you know what? I can give it up. Betting my own life is something I can do easily. Jessica knew. She knew that in order to protect her family, her father had bluffed and fought alone continuously. Jessica understood something that his back had been telling her. Another left straight was buried into Ronave's face. That terrifying strike wasn't due just to the brass knuckles she was using. It was the strike of a person, a family head who could throw away everything in order to protect. If Dad's lost his qualifications to be the successor, then I, the next in line, will succeed the headship. Head of the Urshiramiya family, Urshiramiya Jessica. I'm not the kind of coward who will let you do whatever you like anymore. A wonderful answer. I shall change your score from earlier. Plus 10 for that answer. Plus 10 for that splendid left straight. Which means that plus 20 more would make for a perfect 100, yeah? As Ronave jumped backwards, somersaulting midair, he violently wiped away the blood pouring from his nose. It had become not blood, but petals of a red rose. The blood on his face was wiped off, and in its place was a grin filled with a delight he hadn't felt in so many centuries that he couldn't remember. I, Ronave, will test to see whether your resolve is worth full marks, understand? Shut up! Shut up! Come at me! Come into the abyss! Suddenly, beneath George's feet, a pitch-black pitfall opened its mouth wide. Of course, George had no way of resisting. After being swallowed up by that, George fell out of a pitch-black hole that had opened up in the ceiling of the arbor. As George fell down, he was hit by a reverse roundhouse kick from a sharp stiletto heel, like a strike from a carefully aimed bee. The instant George, after being blown out of the arbor, thought that he'd been swallowed up by a rose bush, another pitch-black hole opened there and swallowed George up. And this time a pitch-black hole opened at Gap's feet before her eyes, spitting a defenseless George out of it. At the time, Gap had already finished the preparatory motions for the next reverse roundhouse kick. What is this? Welcome back! Right side of the head, below the right armpit, side of the right knee. As Gap danced and spun like a small cyclone, she kept hitting him, left foot, right foot, right foot, with successive roundhouse kicks. The fourth one became a sweep, cutting George's feet off from under him and making him fall down. But of course there was no floor there, but a pitch-black hole, and George was swallowed up once again. Gap once again spun around like a small cyclone. George was once again spat around from the ceiling of the arbor. Take this and reflect. The abyss ends with a single strike. Die. The sharp strike of the queen bee pierced the heavens like a rising cyclone. It kicked through George's lower chest as he fell from the ceiling. And then time froze. George was pinned in midair by Gap's raised leg. Still pinned in midair, George moaned. Then Gap, with George still hung up on her foot, grinned. I'll admit it. At least your attitude is that of an adult. But that's no good unless you have power to go with it. Do you know? They say you need 3 kinds of power to rule this world. The first one is influence. The second is wealth. You know what the last one is? I read it in a book. Force, right? Correct! And that's where you're lacking. Gap finally released George. She kicked upwards one more time, changing into another roundhouse kick and knocking him into a pillar. No one will feel a monarch without influence, without wealth, or without force. Ginza possessed all 3 of those. That's why he reigned as a tyrant. If you're going to call yourself Ginza's successor, try showing me a bit of that majesty, okay? Come on, how long are you gonna sleep there? Stand up, okay? If you don't, you'll fall again, see? Not bad movements, but I feel they are slightly unfitting for a lady. Bastard, swaying around all over the place. Aren't you gonna strike back? Don't take me lightly, you fucking bastard! Runaway dodged skillfully, jumped back, and avoided Jessica's fist, but he didn't strike back himself. Because of his dodge that was as rapid as a fluttering flag blown by strong winds, Jessica's fist wasn't able to touch him at all. Amidst the sensation that her own blood was boiling, Jessica regained her offensive composure. Even though this room was large enough for a bedroom, it was very cramped space to keep up such exaggerated dodges in for long. She calmly realized this and started using not only her fists, but her legs as well. No, boxing with just your arms makes you but half a fighter. Your arms must be like the hot roar of a lion, and your legs must be like the cold snake closing in on its prey. Snakes don't have legs! True. Jessica began cornering Runaway towards the wall with perfect footwork. She didn't let him get around her. Runaway's magnificent dodges looked flashy, but they needed a large footing. Once cornered, he wouldn't be able to dodge again. Jessica knew the characteristics of her weapon, the brass knuckle, very well. This powerful weapon's most notable characteristic was how it didn't give the opponent a chance to defend. Even if they blocked with her arm, that arm would receive direct damage. If it hit the wrong way, it might even break the bone. So she cornered him. With this fist, she'd whittle away at this demon who'd lost any way to escape. Oh, when did... Looks like I finally cornered you, right? Where's everyone being held? Where's the damn geezer? You tell me everything and I'll let you off with nothing more than plucking that mustache off, got it? That would be a problem. It does take me an hour every morning to set this. Once you're in a cast, you won't be even able to do that, right? Whoops. Runaway had blocked Jessica's fist with his arm. He tried to act as though it was no big deal, but it must have hurt a lot. Jessica grinned. Runaway smiled the same way, but twitched slightly. I see. This certainly does hurt. Here's my last bit of advice. Cry and apologize. That I cannot do. It would ruin my image. Then just crumple. Jessica's fists were buried into Runaway, but there was resistance that seemed too hard, and the sound of breaking glass, which startled Jessica. At a glance, it looked like Runaway had caught Jessica's fist with his palm. That wasn't quite true. When Runaway opened his hand, a faint, purple, glowing barrier like a glass shield appeared, stopping the attack by a hair's breadth. Pulling herself together, Jessica let her fists fly again, but with a truly magnificent gesture, Runaway caught all of them. I am, after all, a demon. This level of magic is nothing. Even so, you aren't bad at all. If I were a human, I would probably resign right here. Because I am a demon, I can still continue to fight. What are you trying to pull? Is this the end? Are you simply going to attack all the time while neglecting your defense? Huh? Runaway's palm shot to within a hairbreadth of Jessica's stomach. Jessica was knocked away by the purple shield, rolled backwards, and smashed her head on the bed. My shield cannot be broken by a mere human. Don't think that you'll ever be able to touch my body again. In that case, I'll just burst through that shield. Persistent, I see. Yes, a truly fitting spirit for the successor. Perhaps I'd be your opponent for just a while longer. This is also part of an examiner's role. Gap looked down on George, sneering. George was on a path in the rose garden, lying face down in a puddle. The merciless rain beat down on him, so that it looked as though the heavens were mocking him. Stand up, okay? You'll fall again, right? George stood up shakily. It seemed his spirit hadn't given in, but the damage done to his body was fairly significant. Beg for your life. What you're doing now is the same as the fourth option of choosing nothing. You choose the third option, right? If you get down on your hands and knees and apologize, I'll forgive your rudeness towards me. Then I'll guide you down to the dungeon. There, for your beloved Shannon and your own powerless life, you will kill the other hostages one by one. You can do it, right? You did boast about having that resolve. George didn't answer, but his gaze was still obstinately resisting surrender. If you are too obstinate, then this time you really will fall to the deepest depths of the abyss, okay? Gap's strength was evident. It was probably clear, even more than it was to George himself, to Shannon's group watching through the three-sided mirror. George-sama, that's enough for someone like me. Ne-san. If you didn't like me, you wouldn't have to fight with anyone, right, George-sama? Then please abandon me. Please forget me. There was no way that voice could have reached George, but even so, George answered. No way. I won't surrender. Oh? Why not? Because that's my resolve. I'll fight everything for Shannon's sake, and I'll make everything accept us and bless us. Hey, could you tell me something? Why are you willing to go so far for that furniture called Shannon? She's just a washout, isn't she? Rubbish furniture that couldn't even make a satisfactory waitress. I won't permit any more insults against the woman I love. So what are you going to do about it? How could a weak kid like you resist me? Loving someone is strength. Because I learned that, I was able to become strong. Shannon, I love you. With just those words, I can stand back up over and over again. Shannon's in the dungeon, right? Professing your love to me won't. No, she heard. That's because it's love. Shannon can hear my words right now. The reason I can believe that is because of love. You. Shannon, you aren't furniture. Even if you are furniture, you're mine alone, the only one for me in the world. I want you to be close to me as long as we live. I need you for all eternity. George-sama. I'm jealous. He's surpassed my husband in smooth talking. That's youth for you. The strength of love? Then why are you so weak, boy? Does that weakness mean your love is also that weak? Even your love for your fiancé is weak. The way your parents died so quickly was weak. Everything about your life is weak. Shannon taught me about love and strength. If you're trying to measure my love towards Shannon by my strength alone, let me teach you about my love. So you say, I get it now. You're saying that the way you can still stand up after being kicked down so many times is the strength you received from Shannon. In that case, what did you receive from your parents who got killed way too easily? At that time, there was a blackout, even though they were outside. No, this is the thing blocking Gap's vision. Was the bottom of George's shoe. His sidekick, nasal bone fractured. It stopped right in front of the tip of Gap's nose. The thing I got from Mom was this kick. Several moments after, Gap dropped back. Of course, that was too late. If George hadn't stopped, he would probably have caused the damage he'd announced. And what I got from Dad is fortitude. Anger with a low boiling point isn't something to be truly feared. True anger is disciplined by fortitude. I recognize your violent method of declaring your intentions. I also see that you've slandered my fiancé and my parents' honor, and you have no intention of taking back what you said, yes? You. I now understand your attacks more than enough, so maybe it's about time. Time to start fighting back. Quit prattling, foolish boy. A pitch-black hole opened its mouth at George's feet, but George rapidly opened his legs, straddling the hole. The same move won't work again. It was an extremely smooth dodge, and the upper part of his body didn't even quiver. Fortitude means calmly analyzing how your opponent will act instead of losing your cool. Why? Isn't it obvious? Can't you guess? No, I can't. It's to counter, to give back exactly what you got. To make them not want to take another pass at you. Make them cover their face in tears and snot and forget to wash it off. To make them want to rub their forehead on the ground and apologize over and over. To completely, perfectly, and thoroughly beat them until they can't get up. George dashed. Pitfalls opened one after the other, but George didn't step in them again. And because he was persistent, he was able to reach Gap a second time. Reverse roundhouse. Jaw fractured. It was stretched out more forcefully and beautifully than Gap's had been. Of course, while it centered directly on Gap's face, it stopped a hair's breadth away. Perhaps she couldn't rely on pitfalls at this close range. Gap kicked at George's shins at diversion, and in the instant of weakness when he tried to deal with that, she aimed to kick at his stomach. It was a bee-like stab by her stiletto heel, but it sliced through the air where George no longer was. High axe kick, collarbone fractured. By Gap's side, George calmly announced that, his foot still raised. If that monarch's heel had swung down, a collarbone fracture would probably have been the least of her worries. This guy is stronger than me at close range. I need distance. She jumped backwards to open a large gap between them. She jumped and leapt and even flipped in midair, increasing that distance. It should have been magnificent, but for some reason it was very similar to the movement of a small, scared animal. If she opened the distance between them, she'd be able to fight at the range that was her specialty, using a mixture of pitfalls and kicking techniques. You fool! You'll regret the pride that made you let 3 chances of defeating me slide as you fall into the depths of the abyss. When she magnificently landed and tried to aim a pitfall, a razor-sharp wind cut Gap's bangs. It cut them. It happened twice. This time it didn't just stop a hair's breadth away, but it scattered her bangs with its air pressure. Armada con martello. The fundus of the eye fractured with the first strike, cerebral contusion with the second strike. Gap was too shocked to speak. George had closed in all over that distance in an instant, letting off a fearsomely nimble mid-air double kick. Furthermore, with the accuracy and edge of a razor, had cut nothing more than several of her bangs. I learned the power of kicks from karate, speed from taekwondo, and freedom of range from capoeira. Mom was pretty fickle, but I've learned from studying various merits. Why don't you hit me? You aren't going to say it's because I'm a woman, right? You spoke of force as a monarch's third power. It looks like you still misunderstand the meaning of that force. In this situation, force doesn't mean hastily wielded violence. It refers to a deterrent. Knowledge that if someone opposes that monarch, that person won't get away unharmed. A deterrent, you say? In short, this is what it meant. This is why all of George's attacks until then had stopped a hair's breadth away. Those bare misses, which were more difficult than hitting directly, had all been performed so splendidly, and if George had wished it, any one of those would probably have crushed Gap. He had, daringly, not done that. You said it yourself, right? Force is the power to control. If you crush your opponent with force, you won't be able to control them, right? A monarch's force is something that is only shown. He does not crush, he makes others surrender and adds them to his own fortune. If you start blowing bubbles, I won't be able to make you guide me to where the hostages are. Gap had to admit it. She had to admit that George understood force in its truest sense. You'll take me to where everyone is. I would advise against resisting. I won't stop short next time. Sorry, Leah. Let me borrow your troops. This guy's too much for me alone to handle. As a large pitch-black hole opened in the sky, 3 muscular goat attendants fell out. They surrounded George. Reinforcements? Should I take this to mean that you take back all that about me being weak? I admit it. I made light of your human power. That's wrong. This is the strength of a man who's experienced love. How can you say stuff like that with a straight face? Come, goats, crush this man and turn him into meatballs. These goats are stupid, but it looks like they at least have power. I'll turn you into a corpse that even your fiancé won't be able to recognize. You refuse to surrender and intend to continue fighting. Understood. Know that from now on you will receive real harm proportional to your own attacks. If you still plan on attacking me, prepare to sustain a great deal of damage. When George proclaimed that, a faint red magic circle rose up around him. It seemed that George couldn't see it. However, Gap, being a demon, could. Magic? Why does this guy have a defensive barrier? And that's also a counterattacking type. Is this what you meant by a deterrent? From a demon's perspective, that may have been magic, but in George's eyes, it was determination. It was a determination filled with certainty, which would be merciless to anyone who wished to fight anymore, and which would force them to prepare for a significant counterattack. Determination with certainty becomes magic. Renove had been accurately blocking Jessica's fists with his shield, but something felt odd. Even though he was certainly catching them on his shield, he felt his arm get jarred and it hurt. It should have prevented all physical damage. However, the damage from her fists was gradually being transmitted to his arm, piling up. Renove tried to act like he was composed so that this wouldn't be noticed. I'm not gonna get worn out. What's wrong, old guy? Starting to get a little tough? No matter how much you attack, it is useless. Why can't you understand that you cannot break my shield? I'm not gonna stop hitting you just because it won't break. No matter how hard someone's heart is, if you keep on talking to them little by little, it'll eventually start to crack. I believe it. I believe that useless effort doesn't exist in this world. That's why I can live to the fullest. If words will eventually make it through, then the same goes for fists. Give up isn't written anywhere in my dictionary. Those words were probably aimed at Canon. Canon, who had seemed to reject Jessica's words. But Jessica knew that no matter how stubborn his heart was, those words would eventually soak through. She believed that they would surely reach his heart, that one day he would come when he would stop calling himself furniture and disparaging himself, and that he'd step out into a new life. So Jessica didn't give up. She didn't lose heart. It's stupid, right? I'll bet a guy couldn't understand, right? A girl in love doesn't even think about giving up just because it's useless. At that time, Ronobe certainly saw. He saw the reddish glow of light that encircled Jessica's fists. This is not good. An enchantment, is it? This permeating upgrade will be troublesome. Inside her unrelenting fists and determination dwelled the power to succeed no matter what. From a demon's perspective, that was magic. Determination with certainty becomes magic. See? Nothing's useless about it. Looks like my fists are making it through. Guard your arm, old guy. It seems I will have to get a little more serious. It appears as you said, in this world, nothing is useless. That's right. If you give up because something's useless, that's when your life ends. You'll get through. You can be sure of that. I'm an idiot, so this is the only way I can live, but even so, I'm sure I'll be able to reach Kanon-kun, to teach Kanon-kun about a new world someday. So I'm not gonna lose heart in a place like this. I'll definitely defeat you and save everyone. Damn. I have to somehow open a hole. Krause was repeating his useless effort to somehow open a hole between the metal bars. Useless. Nothing is useless. There's nothing. The lookout goats had been swallowed up by those black pitfalls and disappeared. Now was their once-in-a-lifetime chance. This was their only chance to break the bars. Stop. It's impossible, Krause-san. There's nothing we can do with our bare hands. Let's look for a tool. Don't waste time on that. If you give up because it's useless, then it's all over. That's what my daughter said. Even if my body won't fit, as long as a small person like Shannon or Canon can make it through. Now that we've reached this point, action is more important than racking our brains. Let's work together. I'll do it too. Kanon-kun, you're a boy, aren't you? Lend a hand. Kanon-kun? Karasama, please stand back. What? What are you planning? Okay, Nesan. Just one more time. Let's try struggling. Yes, I too will struggle one more time. No, not just one more time. Over and over again. Jessica's voice had reached Canon. It certainly had permeated into his cold, rock-like heart. And George's voice had reached Shannon. If the love he had shown was embodied by strength, she would have to respond in the same way. An incredible metal sound rang out. In the first flash, several metal bars were severed horizontally, and in the next flash they were severed horizontally again, causing many metal bars to clatter to the ground like bamboo shoots cut by a sword. Krause, Kiri, and Nanjo didn't even have a clue what had just happened. Dr. Nanjo, which way down the corridor goes to the mansion? Oh, of course! In and to the left, and to the left! Let's go, Krause-sama. Virgilia-sama will notice us at any moment now. What in the world are you guys? We are. When Canon hung his head a little and faltered, Shannon slapped his shoulder, smiled, and spoke. We're human. Okay, I can't go any further. I was too optimistic. This is way too much. There's way too much left. But next time, okay? Next time we'll definitely probably get it. Okay. You know, I was definitely thinking that I had totally forgotten how this one played out, and I was thinking how many cycles of hope and despair Can they send us through one by one, piece by piece? I actually don't know how many are left, so um, in the end, is it gonna be like, oh, you've come so far and so strong, but actually rocks fall, and then who knows? But I'm excited to hear the rest of it. I'm excited to read the rest of it. Okay. Let's go, let's go. I'm gonna turn off my stream. Already 7 parts. This is like going to be like 1.5 times the size of the last one, at least. But where should we go next? Let's go to... Yeah, thanks for coming. Yay. So tired. Okay. Oh, here we go. How about... Oh, between... How about... You guys like mouth washing, right? Let's hop over to Rika Reedman, whose stream I haven't entered before. But Rika streamed a bunch of Nth games that I know of. So let's go over there. Yeah. Alright. Before I... Again, next stream is in December. So have a... I'll miss you. I'll miss you. If I stream again, it'll be because... because I couldn't stay away. But it'll probably be in December, okay? So hang on until then and remember the struggle of these cousins. Okay. Go over here. Thank you so much for coming, and good night.